Stephen, thank you very much for coming. And as you know, we're doing this series of interviews. And when I started to do this project, I think, I need to talk to Stephen because there's a lot of stories that I always heard and I always try to extract from you. But we always meet when we were having a race.
Right.
So it's always like the short version. And now I'm going to hold you here for 5 hours.
Okay.
So you can tell me all the stories.
Do you think it's possible for me
for
to talk
5
to 5
hours?
hours?
Well, give him the medium version. Lord. First of all, very nice Ferrari that you drove down here. Does your wife know about this major part?
She doesn't know about that Ferrari. Okay. There's also a Porsche that
I'm
people
sorry.
not aware of, and a couple.
Tell me the story of the Porsche. Tell me the story of the
Oh
Porsche.
my God, the Porsche. Okay, so I am.
Oh, by the way, there is no Ferrari. It was just a joke.
He thinks there's no Ferrari. What do you?
Well, I just saved their marriage.
The Porsche. Oh my God. So it's got to probably be a decade ago now. The house across the street from us. The guy, he is the son of the people who built. No, he's the grandson of the people who built the house. Okay. So that house has been paid off for like 50 years or something crazy, right? His parents pass away. He inherits the house. He's the only kid, and the house slowly starts accumulating cars. We can see it, right? There's cars parked in the driveway. There's cars we think parked out the back. He passes away. Turns out that he has the guy who the son of the
guy who built
it. Yeah.
So the house was built in the 1920s or something.
Yeah, 1920s, 1930s. That whole neighborhood's then. So basically, the family builds the house to pay it off, and he then uses loans against the house to keep his life going for whatever time. And then he passes away because he can't pay these bills, and he literally dies of a heart attack, like at the town hall, right? Because where they're serving him papers or something like that.
Jeez.
So his mother, who's still alive but in a nursing home, gets her lawyer down to the house, and he is literally at the front door of the house, and he can't open it. Okay? He cannot open the door. And he comes across, rings the doorbell for me, and goes, do you know anything about how to get into this house? And I'm going, not really. But
that was before he dies, right?
No, the guy's died that day.
Okay.
Yeah, just that.
It's not the same guy.
No, it's not the same guy.
Okay.
This is the lawyer of the mother of the guy who's died.
Oh, the lawyer of them. Okay.
Yeah. So I help him open the house, right? Because we literally can't get in. The reason he can't get in is this guy's a pack rat. And so it's not just cars he's been collecting, it's like newspapers and all kinds of things. It took two of us pushing, like I'm not a small guy, two big guys to push open the front door.
So it was just full of stuff.
Just full of stuff, the whole house, okay. 2 stories. Back to the car. It turns out one of the cars was a Porsche 1983 911. And it's sitting in the backyard, but it's been sitting under a tree where a drip has been happening. So there's one rust hole near the window, front window. And otherwise, the car's just been sitting there untouched for like 10, 15 years.
How many cars they had there?
There was about 12 cars, and it was crazy. There were 2 GTO convertibles, about the good ones in the late 60s. There was an 11-window Volkswagen bus. Ooh. There was a Thunderbird porthole 1957. There was just a whole mass of really cool cars. But I got to pick up this Porsche for $500.
Come on.
So and it was my thanks for being, helping them out with the car, etc. So for the whole house. So I have it literally towed by AAA from their driveway to my driveway. It sits there for 5 years or 4 years or something. And I don't do anything with it other than clean it up a little bit. I can see that all the parts are there. It's all good. It's got this one rust also. I take it to a local Porsche guy who's been having a little trouble. So I thought, you know what, I can get a good deal here. The deal was simple. I give him the car. He restores it. I pay for the parts. He pays for the hours, everything. But I'll pay for the parts, no problems. And he restores it, and he gets to use it 3 weekends a year for 5 years after he's restored it to show that his company can do this kind of restoration.
Okay.
I think it's a good deal. Not too bad. Then things get really bad for him. Now, they still exist, the company.
Okay.
But my car has been sitting there for, I think, 5 years in a paint shop down the road, where the guy owes them some sort of money, and I've had the motor rebuilt, the transmission rebuilt, all of the bright workers sitting separate from the car. It just needs to get out of this paint shop. But he owes them money, and I'm not going to give him any more money until that's all resolved.
Okay, but we're going to solve it, and then you're going to
drive
around $500.
Yeah, and I'll have a car that's $500.
You have all the documentation. I think it's in.
I have everything. So yeah,
nice story.
Yeah, not bad.
And before you get into slot cars, and your house has some interesting story too, right? The writer from Helter Skelter, right?
Yeah. So
Do you mind sharing that?
No, it's cool. It's public record, so it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Vincent Bugliosi was, I think, the district attorney at the time for California, or something like that. But he was the main prosecutor for putting away the Manson family, or specifically Charles Manson. And so, as a consequence of that, he does it. They put him in jail. He's still there, and he literally wrote the book Helter Skelter about that whole case while he was living in this house. In fact, at a card table in what's now my office, right? And I mean, we used to joke after we bought the house that there was a button in the kitchen which was an emergency button in case Charles Manson got released. And it was like you were going to flip up a huge neon sign on the top of the roof saying, Charlie, go home. Vince don't live here no more. Or something like that. But,
can you imagine Charles Manson comes down there and say, "Oh God, those guys are into slot cars now."
Yeah, oh God. They're so bad. I'm not even going to kill them. They already have a dead life.
Or now I have a reason.
Yeah. Slot cars is what caused me to kill people.
How many cars on that garage? Slot cars on that garage of yours?
Of mine, I know that when I had the display cases designed and built,
it's a 3-car garage, right?
It's a 3-car garage,
and then you have the track takes like two
spots, right?
And then you have another spot for the Porsche that is coming.
Yes, it's really for the Mustang that I drive every day. But hey, it's all fun. A 1960s Mustang, pretty cool. But anyway, the original design of the display cases was for 1,000 cars. But that was, 100 shelves for 10 cars each. I've since squeezed 13, 14 cars on average on each one. And I have the shelf at the back has space to put 5, 6 other cars on their side. So I think I'm somewhere north of 1,700, maybe more than that. I'm really not sure.
That's mostly Scalextrics, UK, Spain.
I would say it's probably 400 or 500 Scalextrics UK.
Okay.
About
more of the vintage stuff. Right?
Of the vintage stuff, yeah. I haven't bought a Scalextrics car since the year 2000 or something like that.
We'll have some here.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to buy the Mr. Bean Mini.
Mr. Bean Mini is coming.
And the Blues Brothers Dodge.
Oh, we have this.
Yeah, great.
We have this.
Excellent. I'll walk out with one of those today.
Okay.
But, God, I hope my wife
okay,
doesn't
you see,
see
Scott, this podcast is making money already.
Scott, I'm making you money every day, I promise. Yeah, so there's probably another 600-700 SCX, Scalextric Spain. And there's probably a couple of hundred Fly, probably 400 Ninkos, and
the Ninkos.
300, and maybe not so many Ninkos.
And the slotted that you have are only the ones that we use in the club, right?
Yeah, primarily Group
C.
And
DTMs.
Yeah, and DTMs, yeah. So, and then, there's some more modern things like the Sideways group that we race with Group 5. So, I mean, my Scalextric, my collection started with Scalextrics. And that was when I was a little kid. I was 8 years old, I think, at Christmas. And we got a literal oval set, which is the one straight and the bent curves, right? That's all it is. It's no bigger than this, with 2 Scaletti arrows in it. I still have both cars. I still have the original box.
Yeah, that's my. I saw that box over there.
Yeah, it's the only. I have other boxes of sets somewhere, but that one's the only one I keep out.
That you got when you were 8.
8.
So that must be like 1930.
I believe it was 1938. My actual birth certificate has been lost in time, and I'm not sure when it was.
Yeah, but they're looking good for 85.
As I said to the other guys in there, it must be Friday Ugly Day because they weren't pretty out there. But it's.
So you have the original box. Did you find another box, or that's the original box?
No, that's the original box. I have both the base of it, which still has some of the track pieces and the transformer and 2 controllers in it. I don't have every one of the track pieces, and then the
when did you find
cover
those
of the box.
Pieces?
They're somewhere in my
garage.
They're there.
Okay.
I physically have them, and they're just not all together neatly in the box.
Very nice.
And at some point, I lost the inside cardboard pieces, so I have the original cardboard box that sits in, and the cover box that goes on that, and that artwork.
Can you imagine? That's the great Christmas gift.
It is, right?
Keeping it.
I know. And I actually kept it, 8, so I'm nearly 58. So 50 years I've had that. The sad thing is it was given to my brother and I. So at some point...
He's suing you for
8,
the box.
He was 7.
He's suing you now for the box.
Well, yeah, about 6 years later...
Can you return my...
yeah, please. It's down my... Well, actually, no, he can't do that because I literally... About 6 years later, so I would have been about 14, something like that. My brother was 13.
You bought
I bought all of the slot car things that we had got given as brothers. I bought from my own brother, just so I could make sure it was mine.
Let's do a family meeting. I'm starting a collection right now. I want to buy my part on this deal.
Yeah. Well, and what I did was I didn't tell my brother this, so I buy all the stuff that we have together, right? Literally pay him cash for it, so it is mine. Like,
Okay.
absolutely, because I did not want him to own it. It was mine. And then at the same day, a guy called Peter at school, who was English, had come and moved. I was living in Copenhagen in Denmark at the time. And he turns, at the same day, I arranged to buy his slot car collection, which is all scale electrics. It was probably only 20 cars or something like that. But it doubled what I had between me and my brother, right?
Wow.
So I buy that the same day. I just didn't tell my brother that I was also doing that. So I give him the cash, and then I take out a box of, and now I have all of this too. He's going, what?
Just to make it jump.
And what do? We both played with all of that the next 2 days, right?
Is he younger than you? Or?
He's a year younger than me.
So
we're we're only 14 months apart. Yeah.
I'm 6 years apart from my brother.
Okay.
I have this kind of competition too.
Yeah, well.
Like in Brazil on the Easter, you get like chocolate eggs.
Oh, yeah.
So each son gets like a basket of chocolate eggs. So you take those eggs for the whole year, try to make them
last.
Right? So of course, me and my father used to get one from my mom too. So we eat everything, and then after a month, there's no chocolate eggs in this house anymore. My brother just walks. He was like 5 years old with a brand new egg, sits in the middle of the living room and just opens and starts to eat. And I'm like, come on. We ate yours. That's mine now. Just like eating very slowly. And he was like 5-6 years old. So
that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
I've got a younger sister who's 7 years younger than me.
Okay.
Right, 6 years younger than my brother. So my brother and I grew up super close, right? We're only 14 months apart. We're playing, my dad's a tennis coach. We're playing tennis at the tennis club together. We're playing soccer together. We go to the same school, and the whole.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up.
That's something I need a piece of paper to understand your timeline on, because
Okay.
you were born in New Zealand.
No, I was born in Copenhagen, in Denmark. My brother was born in Australia. My sister was born in Copenhagen. Okay, this is a fun one. I love doing this one. Hi, my name's Stephen Farr-Jones. I'm half Australian, half Danish, and totally confused. That's courtesy of my wife, that line, by the way. So
Totally confused.
I get born in Copenhagen, in Denmark, right? I'm not even a year and a half, I think it is, when my family moved to Australia, to Sydney.
Okay.
My brother gets born there 14 months later, right? So
Okay.
it's like maybe 2 now, something like that, 3. My grandfather, my Danish grandfather, gets sick. We go back to Denmark, but he dies pretty quickly. So we actually end up living in Gothenburg in Sweden for like 3 years or something like that. So now I'm like 5 or 6.
Why? Your father had a job there?
My dad is a pharmacist. So he is trained, his university degree from Sydney is a pharmacist. Okay. But he gets to Sweden or Denmark, can't remember which, and they won't recognize his Australian degree. So he has to provide for his family, Danish mother, Australian dad, 2 kids already, moved back to see the grandfather pass away, right? And the only job he can get, he doesn't go to get this job, it just happens. He's in a tennis court, in a tennis club in Denmark, and he says under his breath, I can beat these guys. And the janitor, literally the janitor hears him, happens to speak English, and the janitor says to my dad, well, if you want to come back this afternoon, you can beat either one of those. We need somebody to be the coach. My dad was talking about, like, I don't know, it was like, I don't think it was the number 1 player in Denmark. It was certainly the number 1 player in the club and the number 2. So he comes back, borrows shoes, shorts, the whole lot, beats him. And he becomes the tennis coach for probably the best quality club in Denmark. And then becomes the guy who creates the the Swedish tennis training system. So he sets up the system that coaches all the coaches after Björn Borg. So Ed Bagge, Verlander, all of these people. That system is a book called Tennis the Australian Way, Swedish Way, sorry, which is written by my dad and a guy called Bosse Strandberg. And he didn't make a huge amount of money. He just loves tennis and what it is. So he turned from being a pharmacist, and that was what he was going to do to support his family, for his entire life, after we moved back to Sweden and Denmark, being a tennis coach.
That's the reason that he moved to Australia in the first place, to be a pharmacist, right?
Yeah. To use that degree down there.
Okay.
So he had a job in Australia doing that, left that because of the family situation, ended up by sheer luck becoming a tennis coach, but a good one apparently, because, all his pupils want all kinds of things. So.
And how long did you live in Copenhagen?
We lived in Copenhagen until 1983, so that would have been a total of about 17 years after we moved back from Australia. So at 17,
so you came back to Australia.
Yeah, so at 17 we moved from Copenhagen we'd been to Gothenburg, Copenhagen, back to Australia. I do my university degree there. but I'm convinced that I shouldn't be in Australia. I swear at my parents. I had a good-looking girlfriend at the time, and that was the reason why I wanted to go back. But it didn't make any sense, right? 17, you don't think straight. So I spent the next 6 years hating my life in Australia and doing everything I could to get out. And within my first job out of Sydney University, a strategic consulting company, like a Bain McKinsey kind of thing called LEK. And I get transferred back to London, of all places, within 6 months, which is what they had promised me, and then they did it. So then we were in London. I'm there alone. Yeah, I've met Virginia. Well, I met Virginia within a year of getting to Australia. My wife. She's British. No, she's Australian. I met her when I was 17. She was 19. Okay, and in Australia. Then I leave after the university thing, not thinking it was going to be 3 weeks. I was told.
She's 20 years younger than you.
It's quite amazing. Yeah. She has a serum that I do not have. But yeah, so we ended up going, again, back to it. So born in Denmark, moved to Australia, go to Gothenburg, back to Denmark, go to Australia, university degree, moved to London.
And how long did you stay in London?
London was a year initially.
Where?
6 months, South Kensington, because, why would do it in a poor area? That was kind of nice. The company was paying. Okay. So we literally, there was a couple of nights where we'd see Princess Di having dinner, things like that. It was a great life. And then we moved to Copenhagen.
Talking about Princess Diana, I think the Queen is in a bad shape.
I believe that she is supporting some woodworms right now. Sad. Yeah, the Queen died.
I was trying to be a futurist.
Yeah, you're amazing. You're amazing.
Benny, the 96-year-old.
But yeah, so that was like London, Copenhagen, back to Sydney, get married. We're going to stay there forever. And then Disney calls me. I worked with them as strategic consulting, and they move us to Paris within 6 months of getting married.
Oh my God, they got Paris too?
Yeah, 4 years in Paris. That was great. Lived on.
So you're in early 30s by then, right?
No, I'm not even 26. 26, 27. I was very lucky in my early career because the strategic planning business gave me exposure to then be hired by Disney. They hired me as a strategic planning department for consumer products. And then 4 years in Paris, but really bouncing around all the cities because I was helping run 32 countries and offices for them. And then, still with Disney, but they moved me to Los Angeles for 1 year training to do something for them down in Australia. But at the end of the year, my wife says, we're not moving to Australia. Oh, right. Let me tell Disney that. Yeah, I'll just go back. And yeah, she goes, yeah, you do that. So I did. No, the Disney kept us, but they moved us to the Asian part of Disney, but kept us in Los Angeles. Okay. And then I set up and ran their worldwide duty-free business with another guy called John Cookson, really good guy. And he and I got to run that for a little while. Still based in Disney in LA, but then I leave Disney. I go to. Could you remember the ugly sweaters that Bill Cosby used to wear? Yeah, it's an Australian sweater company. So I ran that for a couple of years. Okay. That was fun.
I thought you were making sweaters for Bill Cosby.
No, I was not personally making that as a side. No, okay. And then
the Bill Cosby's going to like this one.
Yeah, quite. Universal had a video game division, so I got hired into that and was with them for a year.
But then was just LA.
That was LA from there on.
So you moved back here in
95.
95.
So we've been here for
27.
27 years. Had American kids. I didn't know that. I didn't know that when I had kids in America, they were going to become American. I was going to hope that it would be normal, but they're not. So, I love them dearly, but it's okay. Hi, Americans. I love you a lot. 310 million
now
Americans
happily
can be
at the Helter Skelter mansion.
Yes, at the Helter Skelter mansion where they're not learning any good things at all. One's at the University of Michigan doing dance. The other one went to University of Santa Cruz, but he's now pursuing a recruiting career.
Does it mean that you need to go to Michigan?
It does. It's Detroit, which is sad, but it means I get to go see slot mods. Hi, David. I'm coming.
Yeah, and Professor Motor. And Professor Motor, Slot Car Corner, I think, is there, too.
Are they?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Cloverleaf, I think.
Cloverleaf, yes.
Cloverleaf, not Michigan.
Oh, my God. Right? I went there years ago. Was that Cloverleaf? No, REH.
REH is ago. Ohio.
Okay.
Have you been there?
I've been to REH once when there was some ladies running it at some point. Yeah.
Kim and Frankie.
Are they still running it? Or?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was there years and years ago. Oh, my God.
I was there a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I was doing a motorhome trip, and then I convinced Corinne to stop by.
Yeah. I did the same sort of thing, but we're talking like I want to say it's over 20 years ago, 15 years ago. Because when I first got to the United States, I had no clue what slot car racing was here. My experience of slot car racing was I'm living in Australia, right? Well, I'm living in Denmark, right? I get my first kit when I'm that 8-year-old Christmas. Well, me and my brother technically got it, but whatever. So I'm in Denmark, and there's nothing that I know of slot car-wise. The only people who play slot cars in my experience in Denmark are my brother and I and our friends from school, right? Because no stores, well, there was one store that had a little bit of stuff. But basically, there were no slot car clubs, as far as I knew. And I'm trying to figure out what I can do with this. I get down to Australia, and I've got no idea, right? So,
but do you guys have like proper slot car clubs in Australia, or
at
just
the
like
time,
homegrown
racing? There's no.
But you have friends with tracks that were big
I have
tracks?
friends with tracks, but very few. Like one guy.
Kids.
Yeah, I've got my stuff. We had a tradition in my household of we always built a big track at Christmas, and all of our friends from any part of our lives would in our mum and dad's living room. So we get rid of all the furniture, push it all aside. We'd have a, probably American size. We'd probably have a 20-foot by 40-foot space. And we would then build a track there, and we would drink and drive. It's the fun foundation of the original.
You're not supposed to be doing.
Slot car.
Do not promote drink and drive.
No drinking and driving except on slot cars, never with a real car.
Mark Jones was here from Hot Wheels.
Oh, really?
So he was here a couple of days ago, and he told me that he had the same setup during Christmas. He had they put like this big age-old track, and one year they decided to do a 24-hour race.
At home? Oh my God.
Isn't it the best?
That is crazy.
I just feel for your mother. She had to cook for you guys for 24 hours. And he has like a replica or one of the friends who raced with them on that race made a replica of the car and put it on the real body and put a tag on it, saying, "Oh, this is from the 24-hour race in 1970 at Mark and the Boys," or something like that. That's a very nice tag.
That's cool.
That's pretty cool. Can you imagine, like, okay, guys, this is the decision. We're going to make a 24-hour race. I need all the neighbors here. Pay attention. So that's going to happen. We're going to have teams. Those are the cars. Oh, my God.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what happened with me was, I had very few interactions with other slot car people until I got to Australia, and even then it was super limited. There was one...
In where in Australia were you living?
So I'm in Sydney, in Australia, so Northern Beaches, and there's one raceway, right, that was existing in Sydney at the time.
124 scale.
124 scale, big track, raceway tracks.
And that was 80s, probably.
Yeah, 80s. So we're talking 83 through 87, 88. So I've got there as a 17, 18-year-old. I do know at that point in time about the National Scalextrics Collectors Club, the NSCC. So
the one that is still
this one that still exists,
UK, right?
Yeah,
the British green one.
Yeah, the British green one, and I'm still part of it, right? So not only have I learned about it.
Do they know?
Do they know that I'm part of it? No, I've got a secret name. Yeah, Carlos Farr.
Carlos Farr.
Yeah. They'll never know that Stephen Farr-Jones is part of it. So that was the only connection I had to anything slot car related. I used to literally write handwritten letters back and forth between people like, oh my God, nearly everyone you know now. So Mark Scale, oh my God, Cooper. He passed away a few years ago.
Is Mark Scale husband of Julie Scale, the one that is
Mark
putting
and
together?
Julie Scale.
Put it together at the UK Slot Car Festival.
That they are now. So
I met them, very nice people.
So they're very nice people. And Derek Cooper, who's now passed away. Phil Smith. .co.uk, another one of the original kind of website things. But at the time, it was literally handwritten letters. They would send me photocopies of handwritten stock that they had from England to Australia by post, right? I would write back on them, these are the ones I want. They would go back. This is like 1984, 5, 6, 7.
Hoping for the best.
Or hoping for the best that some of them were still there. And then I'd get a box magically 2 months
they're
later.
Alive. They're
right?
alive.
Yeah. And it would be a third of the cars that I'd asked for, but they would arrive, right? And it was only because of the NSCC that I had any of these connections at all, because I saw ads for those guys in there. Then they start getting websites, right? Then I graduate from university, and I'm still buying a little bit of slot cars, so I'm probably going from those original 2040 cars.
And carrying those cars all around.
Well, almost. I left them all in my parents' house because of those Christmas. My wife and I were very lucky. So
do you still have this first batch? Yeah?
I still do. I wasn't an original member because they started way
No,
before
I mean
I
the
did.
first bet that you got from your brother. When
Oh, yes.
When you have, you
Yeah,
still
I
have
have
the
all of
original
those
car?
cars.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so just to be clear, I have never sold a slot car.
Okay.
I have a whole bunch that I want to sell now because I've run out of space. But no, that's not true. I have sold some of the loaner cars, we will talk about loaner cars in a second, from the club when I had too many.
Okay.
But then they go straight to club members who needed a car
Okay.
rather than anything else. But yeah, of the original cars I've already bought, never sold one. I mean, I have those first 2 cars, right? And
So you're getting the mail-in specials from the
Oh,
UK.
yeah, I'm getting these mail specials from England, right? And there's no other way to do it. And then, right, I graduate from university and I immediately get posted to London. So what's the first thing I do?
Straight to the club. Hey
Figure
guys,
out-
that's me.
Yeah,
I got
except
here.
I didn't know there was anything such thing as race clubs in London. So what I was doing was going to see people like Mark and Julie Scale, or Derek. I stayed at Derek. My wife and I went on a trip to England in, would it be 1988, something like that, before I moved to England. And we stayed at Derek Cooper's house. I didn't know that he was going through a horrible divorce at the time and that things were rather tense in the house because they were all still living there. But we stayed there and he had like, he had
Shots fired.
well, yeah, shots fired almost quickly. But he literally had display cabinets on his walls in his living room that were very similar to what I ended up designing for my own garage.
So inspiration right
And
there.
yeah, and he was a nice guy. He took us around everywhere. I had no idea he was a pretty important guy in him and Phil Smith and others in helping the hobby turn from, England doesn't have those big slot car raceways that we have in the United States and that I didn't know existed, right? It's all pretty much home. They do have clubs now, and they've had them for 30, 40 years. But at the time I was there, I mean, I've been to a few of them, Rockingham Raceway, a few of the others, but that's been later in the years. When I first went back to London, and particularly when we moved there, these are the guys I'm talking to, and I'm literally going to their tiny little shops to go and buy cars directly from them, as opposed to sending a mail piece of paper back and forth. There is this thing called the mail for those people who are a little younger. It is not all the internet. And so, that's how I got really started with because I'm part of the NSCC. So I have, the red Alfa Romeo that they made as a NSCC special back in the 80s. And
They still do
that.
like a couple cars.
They do
like
pretty much. It's close to every year.
It's always in connection with Scalextrics, right? With Hornby, right?
No. Some of them have been non-scale electrics. There have been other ones. Fly did one. A couple of, I think, one from Team Slot. I haven't honestly bought the ones in the last decade, but the very early ones I was always buying them. There's like a grey Ford Escort.
And live in the UK, did you try to have some relationship with Hornby, with Scalextric?
Had a little bit more than that.
Okay.
So I'm part of a strategic consulting company called LEK, and LEK was particularly big in the merger and acquisition business. So this is when there was things like green mail happening and all that kind of stuff. Excuse me, itchy nose. And
I can cut to me and then it can back to you.
No. I like it being on me.
Yeah, but now that I explain, I'm not going to do it.
You're not going to do it anyway. So this is me picking my nose. No. So as part of that strategic consulting company, I kind of had a sense of how to do leveraged buyouts. So I went to my partners.
Come again? What?
Leveraged buyouts.
Okay.
So a leveraged buyout is simply, here's a company, I want to buy it. I do not have the money. So I'm going to borrow the money to buy this company and put a whole bunch of debt on it, which is a bad idea. But people were very happy to do this in the 80s and the 90s, and they still do it to a certain extent. So in a leveraged buyout, I don't have to own anything. I just have an idea that if I buy this company, I can make it make more money. It'll pay off the interest on the debt, and we won't ever pay the debt down. We'll just build this business up through better management to make more money, including paying the debt, so that we sell the whole thing off, and that sale retires the debt. That's what a leveraged buyout basically is. I mean, a whole lot of nuances, but that's the basic idea. It's a very bad idea, because all you're doing is taking a company that was operating perfectly fine, taking a huge load of money from somebody, putting it on top of this company that was operating just fine, and now it has to pay all the interest and the debt off eventually if you don't do well.
Yeah, so
it's a bad idea.
After the profit, you still have to pay that.
Yeah, right? And there may not be enough profit. What if you don't forecast the economy right and it goes down and all that kind of stuff, right? What if COVID happens? So I'm a young kid. I'm like 24, 5, 6, something like that, but I'm doing pretty well at this company, LEK. And I suggest to my partners that, hey, we should buy Hornby Hobbies. because I know how to run scale electrics. I don't know anything about the trains. I don't care. But I know how to make this business a bigger, better business. We got within probably 3 weeks of buying that company. And I wouldn't have been the head of it. I was a child. But
that was late 80s.
Late 80s, 88, 89, somewhere. 89,
So the
90,
whole operation
somewhere in
was
there.
still happening in Margate, and they had
Yeah,
the
everything
whole,
was still in Margate. I'd been down to Margate. I'd been there as a tourist several times, so I could actually scope out what they did and didn't have there, asking questions that the poor guys taking me around had no clue why I was trying to ask these questions. Right? I was literally trying to figure out where their weaknesses were and where their strengths were, doing a SWOT analysis on the business.
I was there a couple of months ago, and it's kind of sad because the production's not there anymore.
No. And even when I was there in 80, it would have been between 89 and 92, I think, somewhere in there. But we got within 3 weeks. I had financing lined up. I had financial models built. We had what we knew what we were going to keep, what we were going to sell.
So doing all that just to call your brother. You can't imagine
you
how many
can't
slot cars
believe
I
this.
have now.
I bought the OS 20 from you, and now I'm going to buy the world supply. But yeah, and nobody knew about this because it was all internal to us, and we never pulled the trigger. And I know it was 3 weeks away because 3 weeks was the timeline at which we said to the banks, no, we're not going to take that loan because we're not going to make the offer. We're not going to go ahead and do it. And the only reason we didn't go ahead and do it was we couldn't find a person who was really a good CEO in the toy business, either US or UK, who had international experience. Because the whole goal was, this is early 90s, okay? Hornby is not particularly well organized at the time. I apologize to whoever was running it then. I don't know who you were or whatever, but it wasn't particularly
And
well.
if you're still there, sorry.
Yeah, you may still be there. It was not leveraged in a way where you were leveraging what the brand could do. One of the first operating plans after taking over was to go and buy SCX. Literally buy...
Just to neutralize the brand.
Not to neutralize it, take it away from Technotoys. Sorry, at the time it was owned, I think, by Tyco. Take it away from Tyco, because they didn't know what they were doing. Big company, toy company, rather than being small, focused toy company. Right? We knew it was a hobby brand and that we could generate huge amounts of sales by treating the Toys R Us type companies, Aldi, not Aldi, but it comes to Walmart, whatever. Properly, we could generate enough sales there in the toy market on a seasonal basis to drive the hobby business further. Because I was a hobbyist, right? So, but it didn't happen. So, sorry, I can't remember why you asked me that question or how that led to
because
it.
you're moving to London and say,
oh right,
you're getting close to the club members.
Yeah, I wish I had. I never really understood that clubs existed until I got to America in '95. Again, through the NSCC membership list, I found a guy called Lee. Oh, I can't believe I've forgotten Lee's name.
Lee.
I will come back to Lee's name. He was an important guy. He passed away, unfortunately. He had diabetes. No, it's not Bruce. There's many Bruces I know, but they're all Australian, not surprising. Bruce Lee. Not Bruce Lee either, no. But yeah, so Lee Stokely, thank you. Lee Stokely.
Thank you to who?
Yeah, to me, my own brain. I'm talking. Okay. I'm not talking to you, Marco.
Are
my
you
brain
religious?
is talking to myself.
Are you religious? Thank you.
Thank you.
Come on.
I'm thanking myself because my brain's running over here, and I'm also talking to
so
you.
let's talk about
keeping
Lee.
an eye on Carlos.
Whoever Lee is. Come on, let's
So
come back
Lee
to Lee.
Stokely was on the National Scale Electrics Collectors Club list of members because they used to publish a membership list on paper. And I figured out who he was, and his telephone number was there, so I called him up. And we had a 4-hour conversation about slot cars.
Listen up, weirdo.
I'm Australian, and I'd like to talk to you, and I'm here in your local neighborhood.
Your local. We should meet.
I am closer
we
to
should
you.
Meet.
Yeah. So Lee, and I didn't know this when I called him, the reason he was a member part of the NSCC was that he had almost, in fact, I wonder whether Scott ended up buying some of those cars. He had nearly every Scale Electrics car that had ever been made. Very close to it. All in his garage. But Lee was running a tiny little slot car club with Victor Ferguson, Stan Smith, and Jim Wiseman.
And Jim Wiseman.
So Jim's, core part of the club now. In fact, he's one of my founders, and I consider him and Eddie Shore and Tim Herrera. Those four of us are kind of like the people who run the club. We don't tell people that a lot because it's better to have them behind the...
Because people can get offended and
they
and
could
sad,
try to put a
like
hit out on
like
them.
I am right now, but that's fine.
Well, Marco, you can't run the club. You're already running too many other things. Okay? I'm doing this for your own sake, Marco.
All right.
It's going to be okay.
That's an excuse that you have already. Okay,
Yeah, right.
That's an excuse that you have.
It's
As
like,
soon as
yeah.
people get offended,
Everybody in the club, they have their name, and then I have excuse next to them as to why they can't be
Excuse.
something
you,
more.
you were too short. You
You're
can
too
reach
short,
that,
yeah.
the shelf.
You're just you. I'm sorry.
Just you. Some.
So I talked to Lee for 4 hours. We find out that we're both really into collecting certain brands. Fly has just started. Ninko's just started. He's already, I mean, he literally had a white, a yellow, a blue and red Auto Union just sitting in his garage. Okay, he didn't have a Bugatti. But he had, sorry, for those who are not part of the Scalextrics folklore, the Bugatti is the holy grail, the Outer Union is right behind it, and certain colors of the Bentley are behind that in the Alpha. These are all old pre-war models, beautiful little models. Yep, that would be, that's Scott's Bugatti.
No, that's
Oh, whose is it?
Margate.
It's in Margate, right?
the
Very
Margate
cool.
Museum.
Oh, very, very good.
Those are the two cars that you're talking about, right?
Yeah. So it's the Bugatti and the Auto Union, but he has them mint in box. There was a tiny little brown mark at near the back rear wing. Oh yeah, very cool. He's gonna put it in.
Here, there you go, perfect.
He's gonna put it in post.
So here's the blue one is the Bugatti and the Auto Union.
Yeah, very cool cars. So Lee and I are talking for hours. We then meet up. I then find out he's got a slot car club, people who meet and race slot cars. Completely new concept to me. This is like 1995. I've been having these cars.
And you're talking about that small club with Victor Ferguson and Jim Wiseman.
Yeah, it was Victor Ferguson's track. It was a lazy 8, long one up against the side of his
Plastic track.
No, it was a wooden routed track, I think. Pretty sure 4 lanes. I'm pretty sure it was 4 lanes, maybe 3. Victor would be able to tell us. But Victor has been a part of some level of Mesak when he was a young kid. And again, I don't know about Mesak at this point in time. I got no clue about all this. But I end up racing with these guys. There's probably only 6, 8 of us that ever turned up. Maybe we had 4 to 6, 8 of us at a time. Maybe there was.
What kind of
10
cars you
people.
guys are racing?
We were running, and this is where it gets interesting for me. We're running the Ninko Classics. Right? That was
The
one of
same
classes.
class as the steel race.
Same class that we run
They're
now.
still racing?
They'd just been released. They were very reliable based on, compared to other slot cars at the time.
At the time.
Very raceable, very simple to use. So that was one of the classes. I wish I could remember the other classes. But fundamentally, speaking to Lee and getting to know him allowed me to get a little bit of that club. I already had multiple club race rules and ideas from the Australian clubs, because there's another thing called the Australian Scalextrics Collectors Club, ASCC, and I'd met with guys down in Australia again when I was living down there and during university, and so I had the paper copies quite literally of theirs, not electronic copies of their rules and how they raced and all that kind of stuff. And then I started learning things from Lee and Jim and Stan. Stan was still the most amazing marshal, even at that stage, that the world has ever seen. Stan Stumley, Stan Smith. And we started racing. It was fun, right?
Where was the track?
It was down at Victor's house, which is down in the Southland somewhere, Irvine, that kind of way. Yeah, so true Southern California rather than being Northern LA, that kind of stuff. So it was a bit of a drive down there, but it was worth it to me. I mean,
So you guys just start the club
we just
racing like
start
once
playing,
a month
yeah.
or like?
Yeah, it was about once a month at the time, and it was very early on. We are literally talking 1995, 96, somewhere in there.
So a couple of years later, like 4 years later, you decide to go for the FarrOut Club.
Yeah, actually what I did
Was it just because of the drive or?
No, it was because So I bounced around the world with my wife, right? Disney moves us to Los Angeles, and it is only in that move to Los Angeles that I finally have all of my slot car stuff shipped from my parents' house in Australia, in
Oh,
Sydney,
okay.
to Los Angeles. In Paris, we were very lucky, lived in wonderful places, but they're
Small
French
apartments,
apartments.
yeah.
They were huge by French standards, but it's tiny by most standards, right? So privileged life, really lucky. This is the first time I get to slot my slot cars with me. Oh my God, what am I going to do? I open up my double garage that we're renting at the time, not the same house as we have
Okay.
now, and I go, wait a second.
I can park the car
I can park
outside.
the car outside. This is a genius thing. I can put a slot car club track in
I
my
don't
own
have
thing.
enough. Okay.
So I literally built the track that I have today. I know it sounds crazy, but we're talking 1995. We're first time in the house. I've got the garage space, and I go, I can build a table. And if I can build a table, I can put my track on it, and I've got all my original track and all this sort of stuff. So I build a 4-lane track that is pretty much identical to the track that I have now in terms of the layout.
Even elevations and stuff like that.
Not the elevations at the time, and this is pre you being around FarrOut Slot Car Club. The original track I had was a plastic 4-lane track that had the highest elevation was 4 inches.
Okay.
This much, about the same as my mouth size, right?
How much? How much is 4 inches for you?
4 inches out. It's this much of a burger, right?
Not so burger. Okay, burger. All right.
You have a filthy mind.
No, I
Marco.
don't have it. Nothing. I just can't compare inches back to my close to my mouth.
So big picture, I get this track, and what is it? It is literally the best corners and pieces that I'd managed to put together over all of those Christmases going back to Australia. Because while we'd moved outside of Australia in 1989, right? By 95, we're in America, and I finally moved. I think I may not even have moved until 96. But for those years when we were outside Australia, we went back for Christmas. I had my company put into my contract. You must fly myself and my wife back to home every Christmas, and I must have 3 weeks off every Christmas, plus another 3 weeks.
That's a good contract.
It's not a bad contract. And I had that my whole career. Like, that was just standard. So even when we lived here from 95 until now, for the first 95, 05... probably up until 2015, so 7 years ago, every year the company flew us back to Australia, right? And I still had enough track and things down there, or I'd buy a little bit more, that we could still have a Christmas track laid out, and all of our friends would turn up, and we would hang out and have barbecues and do that. It was neat, right? So when I got to finally I have my house, I can build a track. Oh my God, I'm going to do this. So it was the same, more or less, 10 by 12 foot, about 2 and a bit meters by 3 and a bit meters space
Of the track that you have today.
of the track that I have today. And it was literally the best corners and connecting pieces that I could make from all of my memories of tracks that we had made. Because I was I'm a nerd. So I have a piece of paper and I draw the track every year that I go back to Christmas. And then I remember this corner was good, that was not. Okay.
So
And then I put that together. That's how I made the track.
So after that, you moved to the new house, and then you put the same track together, and now with the elevations, right?
No, it's still. I
different-
put the same track together, but it is only 4 inches high, and it has a
In
little bit
plastic.
of paper in plastic. It is all Scalextric's classic track that I've got from being that 8th Christmas to whatever the heck I am.
And for
at
how
this
long
point.
did you have the plastic track over there? For a couple of years only, because you decided to do a rooted track.
I do a routed track, but that routed track was only built 4 years ago. 2022.
No.
Yeah, I'm
No,
pretty
no.
sure. Am I allowed to look at my phone?
No, I know
Am I
you
allowed to
for.
look
I
at
know
my
you
phone?
for what? For
Maybe it's older. Maybe I just
6 years now.
maybe okay.
And
So
I never saw
maybe-
the plastic one. I just saw the
That was because you weren't invited, Marco. It's different than. Yeah. It's a completely different.
But I have
thing.
a nice video so I can show you while you talk. I can show.
Oh, you can show the.
Because now I discovered how to do this, so it's
Oh, I
Right,
see. He's cheating. He's cheating.
check it out. Right here.
Track rebuild.
this is
Here
your
we
track.
are. So
And that's the latest version of the track.
2013. I destroyed the plastic track in 2013, and I rebuilt it in the beginning of 2014. So that is how many years? 8 years ago. Marco is right. I am wrong. This has never happened before. Can we please note the time? It is 4:18 on the 9th of September, 2022.
So it's almost 10 years that you have that thing over
Yeah,
there.
so that track looks like this.
Oh, I put a video here.
Yeah, so
How
you know,
nice.
that is my boys destroying the
Ooh.
track. And you can actually see all the dirt that filled in from 1995 until 2013, which is where the actual lines of the track were.
We just got a message and it's
Oh, I'm sorry.
It says,
it's probably work.
Liz Jones, very funny.
Liz Jones, that's my mother.
That's your mother?
That's the less we say about that, the better. I love my mother. Really. I love my mother.
Okay.
Let me see. I'm trying to see if I've got... Okay, this one's worthwhile showing. This is the original plastic track.
Okay, so
half of it.
The layout is very close.
The layout is not very close. The layout is identical.
It's identical, okay.
Okay.
Move this guy here.
Okay, so it's only half the track, but it is...
Another message popping up.
Oh, God, my family, they just keep talking. I'm so sorry. Oh, it's my brother. Okay, so that becomes this. Now you have the height and the elevations.
So this is the actual...
This is the actual track as it's built right now, but without all of the wall.
Who worked on this with you?
I did all the routing. I was taught how to route by Bill Schneidervin. And Bill Schneidervin also, he made like 2 of the tunnels.
Oh, God, another message.
Another message. I tell you, they're going crazy. Like that's work now. Okay. You guys are so lucky you have me for any amount of time. So Bill
It's 5
Schneidervin...
hours. It's 5 hours.
5 hours, that's
Yes.
right. Gotcha. So Bill Schneidervin taught me how to make... One, he taught me how to route, and he lent me some of his pieces of things to do that. But I'd never routed before. I'd never done any woodwork before, which is why it's so basic into how I put it together. But I can tell you that I've walked this entire track. Me, I'm over 250 pounds, 100 and whatever kilos that is nowadays, 135 kilos. I've walked that entire track. It is that strong.
Let's not translate.
Okay, let's not translate.
The kilos, the pounds, the kilos. That's
for Americans, pounds are not real. They're not a thing. There's a thing called kilos. Also centimeters. And that whole thing you have with miles, and it's not real. It's not real.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, and this is after 27 years in America. I still don't believe any of that.
Quarter of an inch. What is that?
Yeah, I know. It doesn't make sense. And then you go
inches,
give me
yards, a tenth of a quarter
yards
of
are
an
what you live in the backyard. It's not a
But
measurement.
there's a good thing about miles. My mom has a GPS on me.
Okay.
So she knows how fast I come here driving, and she says, "Oh my God, 100 kilometers per hour. You're going too fast." Yeah, Mom.
Yeah.
It's 100 kilometers.
That's miles. I love it.
she didn't realize that's miles. Versus
Yeah. So so I have this track at home in the original house, right? But I have no one to play with. So I go to the local train store.
That's another thing that I'm gonna get. That's my only question that I have prepared to you. So let me do this. But before that,
wait a second. You were prepared for this?
Yeah,
you
that's
seem
the only
so
question that I have.
completely not prepared. But
I
okay.
know, looks like, but I have one, and you don't gonna take this from me.
Okay.
So Bill, what's his
Schneidervin?
last name? Yeah, I have one of his tracks here. He built one of the tracks for the movie. What's the name of the movie? Dukes of Hazzard.
Oh, okay.
The remake or the
yeah.
modern
Very
version
cool.
of the Dukes of Hazzard, and they have like a slot car scene on that. And the track that he built for that, the prop track, it's here.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I mean, Bill's built some wonderful tracks. One of the tracks I really liked that he built, we used at the Peterson Museum where we did the fundraising with the FarrOut Slot Car Club helped do. That was July 10th, 2020.
Memorable event.
Yeah, 2010.
Vic Elford was there, right?
Vic Elford, courtesy of Bruce Tullerman. He ensured that Vic turned up at the actual event, and we had interviews with him, and we had Tony Adamovich and a few other people there. That was pretty cool. We had, I think it was 17 slot car tracks in the top car park tent of the Peterson Museum. It was pretty spectacular. The club did an incredible effort. The team, everybody did an incredible effort because we had to put all that together in one day and then take it down in one day. That was not easy. But that's not what's important here. What's important back
And
to
you guys
to my
took like
slot car
10
track.
tracks over there, right?
We had 17, I think.
17 tracks. I
Yeah.
wasn't hearing.
Yeah. So, but much more importantly, back to my track. What the heck?
No, come on. 17 tracks.
Yeah. But you had a question you were going to ask me, and you didn't ask me. I don't know what's wrong with you.
No, come on. We're getting there. So 17 tracks, and those are not plastic tracks, right? Those are rooted tracks that you guys...
They were a combination of...
How can you convince
plastic
someone, say,
and
look, you know the
rubber
track
tracks.
that you have in 6 pieces that
Yeah.
it took like 6 years to put together? Can you just take in parts and take to the Peterson Museum for a day and then we...
How can you convince them to do that?
Yeah.
Have you seen my face? Do you know how beautiful I
Come
am in
on,
regards to this?
come on.
No, honestly, it was
It
myself.
can be all based on charisma. Pure charisma doesn't make
I don't
17
understand
people.
It was more than 17 people. It was the entire club, but it was 17 track owners or people who had track that they could build. I mean, my track wasn't even included. I have to go back and look at the videos because there was multiple TV interviews and things on it. I'll have to check how many. Maybe it was only 10 tracks. Maybe I'm wrong.
If you go on YouTube, you can search for some. If you go Peterson Museum slot cars,
it's
there's a
also
lot of
on our
videos
website, which is being rebuilt since it got messed up by somebody. But anyway,
Okay, my only question.
yeah. By the way, Scott was one of the people I convinced to actually have a track there. His track that's in the museum was one
there
of the,
too.
It was the track we used for the big race with Vic Elford, Michael Smalley, Jim Rose, and Tony Adamo.
Jim Rose.
I think it was as well. Jim won it, I think, or he paid to
Of course
be the
he did.
person. But yeah, he I didn't know Jim at the time, but I think it was him, Tony Adamovich, Vic Elford, and Michael Smalley who were the racers.
Very, very
Yeah,
nice.
but it was on Scott's track. Sorry, the LASCM.
The museum's track.
Museum's track. Thank
The
you.
track is
Yeah.
that is resting close.
Yeah, which was built. It wasn't built specifically for that event, but it was the first time that track was used properly
Okay.
for the at the.
So my question is,
Oh, that's right. You had a question.
I have a question. So I hear that story several times, and I never heard this from you. So when you decide to start the slot car club, FarrOut Slot Car Club, you went to a train house or a train modeling store, and you start to approach people. Everybody who comes out of that store with a slot car, they say, "Hey, I have a club."
Maybe I did this. Maybe I don't.Maybe I can't
No,
talk
can you
about it
t- no,
because
can
of
you-
legal reasons.
Yeah, sounds like that you're gonna get in trouble if you put that on camera. But yeah, can you tell me about that story? So you
Okay.
form a full club of approaching people on the street? No.
Yes. I didn't approach them on the street. Technically, I did it just inside the doors of the building.
Just save you.
Okay, so yeah, so we've moved to the new. Well, actually, it happened beforehand. So at the first house, moving to the second house, which we moved to in 1999. So this must be happening in 1999, 2000, thereabouts, maybe a little bit before that. I don't have anybody. I have a slot car track, 4-lane. I have a big one. I have lots of cars in the cupboard. They're not on display at that time, but I've no one to play with because I've got no. But I don't. Lee. Oh, sorry. I know. I don't. I'm getting to know Lee. I'm
Like
starting
4 or
that
5
process,
people.
Yeah. But that's not enough for a slot car club. So I need people.
Especially because those people are far away from
Yeah,
you.
they're way far. You know, Irvine's an hour and a half drive from where I live, right? So I go to my local train store. It's called Victory Station. It's on Victory Boulevard in Burbank, Glendale area. Really nice guy. Oh, I wish I could remember his name. I will in a second. But I convince him that slot cars are the next big thing.
It's Greg.
Greg at Victory
it's not.
Station? It was
It's
not
not.
Greg.
Just
What are you talking
continue.
about?
Just continue.
Oh, my God. I know everybody in freaking Brazil. You don't know anybody in the U.S. What the heck? Come on now.
Yeah, it's Greg.
Now, so Jose. Everybody's called Jose. Or Carlos.
Carlos.
Definitely not Jose. Not if you're... anyway, who cares about all that? Back to the story. So I don't have anybody to play with. I know I need somebody to play with because otherwise my wife's going to get annoyed with me being in the house all the time. So I go to the guy at Victory Station and I convince him to go from a train store to also slot cars. And I convince him that he has to have at least 3 brands, Scale Electrics, Ninko, and Fly, and that he should be doing that straight away because otherwise he's going to miss out on the big new boom of slot cars rebuilding. And again, it must have been somewhere around about 1999, 2000.
So how did this guy start to buy stuff? Do you have the contact to the
That's
distributors?
why one of the reasons why I figured out REH existed. Scale Electrics. It wasn't Scale Electrics USA at the time. Where did Alan Smith start? I don't know. Anywhere, wherever it was, whoever it was, put him in contact with these people. No, I didn't call them up or anything. I just said, hey, call these people. They have stock. You can buy from them. So he starts buying, and he puts them in there. And eventually he builds a track, which with the club actually helped rebuild. At one point, we'll talk about that later. So I get him to stock the slot cars, but I'm doing it for a reason, right? I need people to play with. So I would go to the store on a Saturday morning and spend most of my day on a Saturday there.
Hey, you!
No, I was very, very much better at it, like charisma, remember?
Have you
So
have you heard the good word of slot cars?
So what I would do is literally somebody would go and they would buy a slot car, okay, or two, okay? And they'd be very proud because they just bought a slot car. They're like, really cool. So I'd stand at the door just past where, gosh, I wish I could remember his name, the owner's name. He's so nice.
Greg.
It was not Greg. I will come back to it. But he had a checkout near the door, right? Normal situation, right? So I'd wait until they'd done the checkout. And they'd have two cars or three cars, right?
I should be there.
No,
do they have footage? Do they have like security camera footage?
I can recreate the scene. So literally,
as soon as the guy touched the car, ha!
So the person would come out, right? They had bought the cars, and 2 seconds later, I'd be standing there and go, "Oh, that's really cool. What kind of model is that?"
Oh, we have some sort of.
Yeah. I had a whole line. So I literally go, "What kind of model is that?" To make sure that they thought I didn't know that it was a slot car.
Oh my God!
Because if I go to you, what kind of model is that? And you've just bought a slot car, right? What are you going to do? You're going to go, no, it's not a model. What are you talking about? It's not a model.
This is a
the
slot car.
It goes around on a track and you can drive it. And I go, oh wow, that's really cool. You know, I think I might have some of those. Why don't you give me your email, telephone number?
Oh my God! Right away.
Right away. Right. Because I have some, and you know what? I maybe there's some other people. You know, if you give me a number, I can get in contact with you when I find some other people.
So Greg was picking. Why are we doing this?
Greg
was picking up the phone, say, "Oh, no, don't worry, police. It's fine. I know him. I know him.
Yeah, I know him. He's good. Oh man, I gotta remember his name. Anyway, so he would let me do this because he knew what would happen. What would happen is I'd wait until I had like 4 or 5 people's numbers, right, and then. My 3-car garage in the new house, right? I'd had the plastic track up, and it looks pretty good even then. It was pretty impressive, and I'd actually had display cabinets built at that time. So I would literally have them arrive at the bottom of my driveway. I'd have the garage doors down because I didn't want them to have any surprises. I'd have a remote in my pocket for the garage door, wait until the 4 or 5 of them turn up and go, oh yeah, guys, I put together a little track. Right, because the whole idea was to bring some of your cars around and we'll play.
Oh my
God!
So you're luring people.
I'm luring people. Not only I'm literally the guy with the van and the caddy and everything else, right?
In the Helter Skelter house.
In the Helter Skelter house, the original Helter Skelter house, right? So I literally I've got my remote in my pocket. So of course I hit the button, the doors go up. Oh my God, what is this? And I go, this is how you do slot cars, folks. Do you want to be a part of a club or not? It's you can choose. You have 3 seconds. Make a choice. So basically, I'd let them play, right? I'd have lots of cars, I'd be like Scott if Scott would let people play.
And then you put your gun down and say, okay, maybe we should.
And at this point, and there might be some beers lying around somewhere, right? So what happens? People see that and they're going like, this is cool. I want to do this again. So then I'd have a few more people over, and then I'd have more. In essence, the club gets started because I need people to play with, right? Not in that sense. Anybody who's watching, I'm not playing with the people. I'm playing slot cars with the people. Let's be very clear on this.
We can do a cut right there.
Can we just cut at any point in time? So that's how the club got started, because I needed people to play with. I got Victory Station to start stocking them so I could have a source of people that I could get to know, and then we play. And because it's me...
From those 5 people who were there for the first time, is there any member there's still in the club?
For sure. Well, Stan Smith, who only left because he went to Colorado or wherever he went to. Sorry, Stan, if you went to Seattle. I think you did. Jim Wiseman.
Jim Wiseman's there. Okay.
Jim Wiseman is still there. Victor Ferguson, unfortunately, hasn't been with us for a while, but he comes up whenever I want. And... yeah, Jim and I are the only people left from the people who were racing at Lee Stokely. And it hadn't been for Lee Stokely and me convincing Victory Station to do this, then the club wouldn't have existed, because I wouldn't have got around to it. I needed a source of people that I could get access to easily. And at the time, I couldn't go onto the internet and just say, hey, dear people, there's a weirdo who'd like to play with little toy cars with you. You know, that doesn't work. So, and I think, and we can talk about that if you want or not, but I think there's a fundamental few things that I did at the very beginning that are the reason the club is successful and is still successful, even post-COVID and all that. I mean, we're almost back at the same amount of people.
22 years old now, right?
Yeah. It must be, because it must be around about 2000. And we have records, even though the website is currently down, I have most of the records. So we have records of every race that was done since about 2002, I think it is.
So right now, how many active members do you have? Do we have?
Do we have?
Yeah.
I see Marco is now part of the club.
Yeah.
We have.
Oh, by the way, who won the last race?
I never pay any attention to who
okay.
wins anything. Was it Richard Rodriguez who won his first race ever? That was really cool.
No, it was me.
Oh, was it you?
Yes.
See, I literally don't pay attention to who wins.
Yeah, okay.
I don't pay any attention to
club member.
To
a
me,
very active club member.
A very active.
I did a video about the car.
Relatively new club member.
Yeah,
who's like, it's you're important. You're important to the
Thank you
club.
very much.
You cause lots of interesting things to happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know. Making videos about the cars and people saying the car is
and then people get freaking out. It's all great. No, by the way, I think it's a great point though that you won a race and you immediately shared everything that you had done about how you set up the car. You're driving is what wins it.
No, 3 reasons. The first one is that I'm working in a slot car store, so there's some advantage.
Yeah,
that's the reason that I don't race here. So every time that I show up to a FarrOut race, it's just to have fun. But I might end up having a good performance.
Yeah. You're a good
so
driver.
I share because I'm kind of want to share what I did, because if people don't have the information, because we're here at the track literally gathering information every day.
Yeah.
So if I have a couple of things that I want to share with the club to make the cars run better, I can do it. That's the one thing. And also I do that because of a little bit of guilty. So I want to share, to have people say, look, Marco is not like trying to be fast or trying to.
It's
just like I'm sharing because I got a new setup that might work for you.
Yep.
And of course, I've made the video because we could share on our channel. And
it's great content.
It's open not only for the club; it's open for everybody. So
well, and it happens to align perfectly with sort of the way I want the club to run.
Yeah. Let's talk about the spirit of the club, which is something very important and is very different of any racing that I ever been to.
Oh, okay.
And that took a little bit long for me to understand that, and that's why when I go there, it's just like to relax and have fun and talk to the nicest people that I know.
Yeah.
Which is a very nice group, group of people.
Well, that's good to hear.
Like we were talking about Jim Wiseman. Jim Wiseman for me is one of the best drivers I've ever seen.
Oh, and he's a serious gentleman. On top of
the coolest.
Right? Yeah.
And sometimes I see him driving that thing. It's just like, oh my god, how he's braking that? How he's like, it's constant, like lap and lap and lap, even in a small plastic track. And I remember that it was one group race that I was there.
Yeah.
And I was racing like one of the gutter lanes, and I couldn't drive. I was crashing. I don't know how to do it. And then Jim Wiseman came just after me with the same car, with the same controller, and he did like.
Yeah. Amazing control, consistency every single lap. Like, whether it's a 10-minute stint or a 2-minute stint, just incredible.
Him and Eddie is just like, those are the for me,
quite amazing. And Michael Smalley used to be like that as well.
I didn't have my time with Michael Smalley. Like he was not very present when I was starting, and now he moved away.
Left,
So I couldn't see him much. I think I shared like 2 or 3 races with him. But I heard stories.
It's interesting. I think and if I am omitting someone here, I apologize, but the top 5 racers who've ever been, top 6 racers who've ever been in the club are Michael Smalley, Rene Cortez, Jim Wiseman, Eddie Shora. I've got to remember his name. A New Zealander.
It's Marco.
No, you're number 6.
Okay.
You're number 6. I'm not kidding. You are number 6. You're in the top 6. So Marco. Carvalho,
Thank you very much.
Right, in terms of just sheer driving skill. But there was another guy whose brother Paul was the British Touring Car and European Touring Car Championship Radicic. Paul Radicic's brother, Chris Radicic. Chris, I think, has also won slot car races in other classes, raceway classes, whatever. So he raced with us for a short while before he had to move to the East Coast. So you got Michael Smalley, Rene Cortez, Jim Wiseman, Eddie Shora, Chris Radicic, and yourself. Those are the 6 races that I have seen drive cars that shouldn't be able to be driven the way that you guys do it. Whether it's a good car or bad
we have
car,
other talents like Chris Sukimoto. For me, it's just like
Chris Sukimoto is very, very
Silent
good
Ninja.
As well. Amazing.
Don't say a word and beats everybody else.
There's other great people too in terms of racing. You look at Tim Herrera can pull it out of his.
Tim Herrera is always with fast cars.
But he can also put it out of the backside when I give him a bad car in a team race. He can do well. Kevin Tabucci, Thomas Laufenberger. Oh my God. He is the only person, I think, who has consistently, year after year, won at least one race with loaner cars.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I prepare the loaner cars to a certain
Tom
level.
Geese.
Tom Geese, yeah, also, yeah, very good racer. As again, I did say up front,
It's a high-level club.
Yeah, well, when Chris Radicic came and raced with us, he was already a world champion in something in slot cars, right? And he's racing with us, and I'm seeing him being beaten by my guys. And so then I do little things like I put them all in a team race together, and I just like make sure I see, and I'm looking really. I don't care what the results are. I never do. But what I do care about is I look how many laps did Tom Geese or Thomas get versus Chris versus Michael versus Renee, and you see. And what happens is you look at this in a team race, and a team race for those people who haven't been a part of our club, 4 lane assigned cars. Everybody races the same cars. You have 3 or 4 people on each team, always the same number of people on team after I learned my lesson from one race where we didn't have the same number of people on team. And so you're racing, basically, if it's a 40-minute race, 4 people each race 10 minutes with a hot swap on the controller. But what would happen every single time I measured it, the top 6, 7 drivers would all get exactly, like down to the 10th of a lap. Exactly the same lap totals. The only thing that would happen is if they got hit by other cars or something like that. But never further than this far away from each other, right? Or a 10th of a lap, a few feet, right? It's just amazing.
We're forgetting about another great driver,
Christoph, oh my gosh, yeah.
Christoph is fast.
So he was very, very good driver.
Yeah, those guys who own the track, like Christoph and Eddie and Jim, if you beat them at their track, consider like
incredible.
Yeah,
it's like you need to get a gold medal for that.
I never beat Eddie at his track.
Yeah,
it's always a second. It's always a second place.
I don't think I've ever beaten Eddie except for when I've broken his finger.
when I have those guys over.
Quite. But I mean, it's cool, right? We've managed to attract a really wide variety of people. Some of whom are amazing car preparers, some of whom are amazing drivers, some are both. Others who are never going to be any good at driving or car preparing, like myself, because I'm just having too much fun, right? But it is a really broad variety. And I think you asked earlier, like, how many people do we have active, etc. And I've got a lot of stats on the club. I don't remember all of them exactly, but we've had I think it's over 300 or 400 people who have raced in the club.
Through those 20
years, yeah. And I have all of their names. So they're all sitting in a database. And I can go figure all of that. Right now, we have over, on the Facebook page, and it's such a pity our website's been down for the last couple of years. I've got to rebuild that. But on the Facebook group page alone, we have something now approaching 400 500 members.
I think it's the closest group, right?
It's I've had to put some controls on it just recently in the last few months, only because we were getting people who were spamming with events and things. But so it's about, I think, 400. We could look it up, but it's a lot relatively let's say local club in Southern California, right? Yeah. What it and the website have on it too, or had on it in terms of the website, is content that is important relative to racing a club. So there's and anybody can reach out to me and get it if they want to really join the club.
Yeah, it's an open club.
It's an open club, right? So the philosophies, there's pages on philosophy as why I choose classes and what I'm looking for. There's a reason for why the spirit is very specific in the club. So when I started the Slot Car Club, we literally originally, nobody had cars. So I would literally go to my collection and I'd say, okay, today we're racing SCX Formula One.
Okay.
So I would take 20 cars off of my shelves that were shelf queens, beautifully, absolutely perfect. I just put them out literally in the middle of the track, and people would just come and grab whatever car they wanted. Whoever got there first, grab whatever car they liked. And that's what we would race. And we did that for a few years, at least 2-3 years. Why? Because if you don't have a car, how are you going to race? What are you going to do? Right? And then I evolved that into the idea that you should be able to turn up, never own a car, but have a race car, loaner cars that were as good as the best prepared cars. So what I would do at first is I'd have the top racers, the people who would consistently win. I'd literally give them 5 loaner cars and say, you prepare those. Yeah, prepare these.
I did a couple.
Yeah, you did, right? Michael's done tons. Other people have done tons, right? Eddie Shore isn't a car preparer specialist, but he's helped me out at various points in time. But what he tends to do, and that's again spirit of the club, we have setup days, okay? So we only usually have 3 a year because it's a question of hosting time and all that. But the purpose of the setup day is twofold. We help you prepare your personal race car. to the same standard as the best cars in the club. You also have literally I've got a 3-page sheet that says, this is what you do. This is how you take your car apart, which I had Michael wrote it and a few other people. This is what you check. This is what you fix. And here's the lap times you're going to go set with the car. But the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take your own personal car. You're going to give it to Eddie Shore or Michael or you, right? And they're going to set some times.
Right? I did that on your track.
Right. And what's the purpose of that? It's not to show how bad a driver you are. You are a crap driver, by the way, when you first join. You always are.
Yeah.
But by having somebody else take your car and put some laps on it, you get a sense of how fast the car could be and what your gap is to that performance.
Yeah.
Now we can go prepare your car. And so we help you make it the best it can possibly be. Hopefully with a minimal amount of effort, back to the spirit of the club, right?
So I do that here, actually. Like around 4:30, I go to the track and I see people like trying to make their car fast and say, let me see your lap time. And they do like, let's say the record's 5. Because we were always beating the record. That's pretty good. Like this track is still, they're still finding time on that track.
That's
so it's
amazing.
always like 2 or 3 tenths faster every time that I have the new race for that class. So right now we're going to be racing the GT class.
Okay.
So the record set is 6.3. So the people who are dealing with their cars now, they're already doing 6.0, 6.1s.
Wow.
Just out of practicing, right?
Yeah.
They're still trying to beat the car. They're trying to regulate heights and different tires and stuff like that. And then I go there and say, well, let me see your time. Then the guy's doing a 6.2, 6.3. And then I do a little faster than that. And then he says, oh, it's not my car. It's my driving. And then they need to dedicate a little more time on the driving.
Yeah.
We have Todd here. Todd is a guy who literally started 3 months ago.
Okay.
But he's really into it. He raced the Nationals. I think it was his second race. And he put together one of those Jaguars.
Oh, yeah.
XJR.
Yeah.
One of the Jaguars that everybody raced, the XJR10, the new slotted car. And I had it the same day that he was picking up his car because his car was here after the race. He came to pick up and said, let me try your car. So I went there and I picked up Rick Jokan's car, the winning car, the pole position. So I went there, same track conditions, my controller. I tried Rick's car and I did the 6.1 something.
Right.
His pole position was 6.1 low.
Yeah.
So it was kind of, okay, that's the pace. The car is very nice, very good, drives well. Let me try your car. I did a 6.0 with his car. So his car was faster. So this guy's serious about it.
Yeah.
I said, look, you need to dedicate more time into your driving. You have the cars. But he's really into the cars. So if you go right now to the track, he's probably like, oh, I found a new screw from Slotting Plus that fits better. So he's really into the car. So it's like 80% the car, 20% the driving now. But at some point, the driving is going to kind of mix up with that. And this guy is going to be unbeatable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because right now, if I have to race tomorrow, I'm going to ask him to set up a car for me.
Right. Because he knows something about how to do that. There's
3 months.
something in his brain.
He has been here 3 months.
Allows you to do that.
And that's a great thing about slot cars. Because if you really are into it, if you really want to dedicate yourself to make that car fast, you can use your own experience from the past. And Todd is my age. He's probably a little younger, maybe. I'm 26 now. Yeah. So he's probably 18.
Self-delusion.
So that's it's very if you're doing the right way, if you know how to enjoy the hobby, and even if it becomes a sport for you, you can really put yourself and make really good things.
And it gives you this great opportunity to explore that, or driving, or socializing, whatever. That's what I like about it, right? You can set up a situation where people can explore any amount of improvements to the car. What does a tire difference make? What does the width of a wheel make?
Okay, but that's the question that I didn't have prepared, but I have now. Your club doesn't allow that much, and that's part of the philosophy.
Yeah.
And can you explain me a little bit? I know that the FarrOut Club is almost out of the box with some changes.
Yeah. Minimal changes.
Yeah. And why is that? Why you don't want people to explore those changes that sometimes is beneficial to their hobby?
So I think that it's beneficial to the hobby, but it may not be beneficial for a club environment. Okay, so there's 2 approaches there, right? You can grow the hobby of slot cars, I think, 3 ways. You can allow unlimited technical exploration, and there's going to be a group of people who are going to love that because they get to literally say, it started as this, and I made these changes, and it got better, right? You can also simply increase awareness. Slot cars exist. Your great stickers of slot cars are back, right? That's just awareness. That's just, hey, these things exist, and they used to exist, but now they're back and they're really fun, okay? You don't have to have any technical knowledge. You don't have to have any capability. You don't even have to own a car to have fun in that sense, right? Awareness building, technological exploration. Or the other one, I think, is a combination of both, but I think it enhances the ability for slot cars as a hobby to be a long-term rebuild. And that's the social aspect of it. So the FarrOut Slot Car Club is built, designed, literally designed, not... I think people do perceive that I just kind of like do things randomly, but
Of course not.
Some people genuinely believe that. But
Well,
my brain works in a way where I design things to be successful. That's what I do. So I think it's what I do. I don't
delusional.
But I think it's what I do in all parts of my life, right? So I've built companies, I've built businesses for other companies, I've done all that sort of thing. With the Slot Car Club, very early on, I decided, you know what? What's making this successful? I have a track, they don't. I have lots of cars, they don't. If I let them come and race whatever they want, then one car is going to be faster than all the others. Not the driver, not the capabilities, not anything about it, just one car is physically going to be set up better than everything else. So if I build an environment where the cars are somewhat more controlled, and I have to do minimal effort to get that car to work well, which admittedly for the first 15 years of the company, the club, its existence, the manufacturers weren't making things that were easy to use. So we had to do other things. Yeah, Scale Electrics, SCX, really hard stuff to set up well.
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but,
Yeah, no, go for it.
here we're dividing professionals and collectors or kind of first-time slot cars when you have a one-piece chassis like Electrics.
Yeah.
So at that time, we didn't have the two-piece chassis. We didn't have a slotted.
No, we had nothing that was a slot race.
And the cars were much less reliable and much harder to drive.
Yep.
So maybe that philosophy that you don't have access to all the parts and all the tires and all the different motors and pods and systems was a philosophy that was working there.
It was working then, and I still think it works now, even with all the new technology available.
Yes. But
Depends
my whole
on what your
point
goal
here, and I'm not trying to convince you on anything, I was just
yeah.
trying to hear your opinion, is that if you have... I understand the experience. I understand that you have a track, you have the cars, you want the guys to come over, take some beers and race slot cars. That's the fun. Of course, there's a couple of those people who are, no, I want to have my own cars. I want to prepare my own cars, right? Yep. So this is an experience. But if I provide that experience now, I think it's going to be too shallow compared to what the slot car world is bringing to you right now.
That's interesting. That presumes, I think, that the majority of people who are going to be racing slot cars in the future are wanting to have the experience of being able to change everything and improve things by using different parts and testing things and making things faster.
I don't know if it's going to be the whole... I don't know about that. The only thing that I know is that... I'm assuming that I'm thinking is that if you give this experience like a deeper drive to this, if it's a little bit deeper than that you need to paint your car. You need to fix your car. You need to learn about it. You need to understand that, and then you go to the track, which is something that you do on the setup days.
That's why we have the setup days.
Yeah.
Very specific. Same philosophy, exactly.
Yeah, but the difference between what we're offering here, of course, we're a commercial place. Right. We sell parts. And when I'm writing the rules, I say, look, this needs to be out of the box, simple. But one or two things, if it improves the car the way that I think it improves, let it have it, because we can sell a couple parts here. Everybody's going to be happy with that. That's my whole thing. Like if I have a loner race, if I only have loners races, people are not going to get involved with it because there is an attachment. Even if for a 40-year-old, if he has like a new Jaguar, he's going to look at this before he goes to bed. Oh, my Jaguar. So he goes to bed with that. So there's a big attachment for me if you're making that thing faster than just racing loners. That's my whole thing with you, with the club.
I think Marco needs to learn about the customer pyramid.
Okay.
So, I think the FarrOut Slot Car Club is successful Because I built it on a principle of something that's called, it's a marketing principle. It's called the customer pyramid.
Okay.
Super simple. You actually know it already. You just don't know that name necessarily.
Probably.
Okay? I'm sure you do. Fundamentally, if you think of any marketplace, it is a pyramid. At the base is the broadest number of people who could be interested in this, but they're not going to be interested in the full depth of whatever it is. Could be Coca-Cola, could be sneakers, could be slot cars.
Okay.
Yep, could be anything, BMW cars, real cars. But the base of the pyramid is
everybody that we can approach.
That could be interested, right? So it's the kid that walks past here from the store next door.
So our target audience between 5 to 69, both sexes.
Actually, 89. The oldest person I've had racing on my track was 94 years old.
Well, don't talk about Eddie like that.
It's not Eddie. It's his dad. But so the base of the customer pyramid is very wide, but isn't very deeply involved. And then you have levels above it. So when we look at a customer period in any given market, the true base is everybody who lives and works around your location. Yeah?
Okay.
The next part, a little bit narrower, right, because it's a pyramid. Let's just think of them as slices.
Yeah.
The next part is those parts of the population that are relevant to your brand, or, put it the other way around, how is your brand relevant to certain parts of the population? So you can imagine that the people who want to buy a BMW, there's many people interested in a BMW, but not everybody who lives around them can do it, right?
Yeah.
So you think about the base as a square or rectangle. This is everybody who lives and works near. Relevant population is those people who are relevant to that, yeah? And then there's a next step up, which is the fundamental consumers. They're the people who've come into a restaurant, who've raced a slot car, who bought a plush bear, whatever it is. Okay. That's the actual customer base. And then you have the next level up is a very much smaller section, which is those who have given up their personal information to the brand that they're interested in. So think about the people who have signed up to the E-Club, in case of FarrOut Slot Cars, or who are part of Electric Dreams, who have actually made it. And then at the very top of it, you have the top of the pyramid, which is the loyalty group. So now I've just described what is fundamentally direct marketing. Loyalty, committed users, giving up information. Yeah, absolutely. And then the actual whole consumer base, and then those who could potentially be consumers, and those who are, yes, they live around, but they're never going to be interested. So when I built the Slot Car Club, I'm literally thinking about all 4 levels of that. And I would argue that what you're talking about is the top 2 levels. True loyalty, right? The people who are very willing, I'm willing to do it sometimes, but not all the time, to change the wheels, test the wheels, try this, do different screws, all of this sort of thing. It's a cool part of our hobby. It really is.
But you need to be hooked.
You need to be hooked. And you need to be willing to put in the time. You need to have the time available. So by definition, again,
to be hooked, you need to fish people out of those bottom parts. Yeah.
Right. And you need to slowly build them up through the pyramid. My club's goal and role is to groom people, not level. Literally, to whatever level they want to be. Top end. That's why I'm so happy Electric Dreams is around. To me, you're a godsend. You turning up allows me to take, and again, active people in the club this year, we're averaging 20 people every second weekend.
Last race was 26 at FarrOut.
Yeah, by the way, when you think about it, slot car clubs across America, please introduce
26 people racing in a garage.
Yeah, in a garage.
Not yours.
Not Nigel's. Somebody else's, right?
Nigel's, yeah.
And we have 8 active tracks, 8 owners, besides myself. Sorry, that's not fair. We have 7 plus the museum. So Electric Dreams account, and then we have 6 other people. We used to have 16. It used to be a massive problem for me because I only had... FarrOut Slot Car Club, for those who do not know, races 26 weekends out of 52 every year.
Every 2 weeks we have a race.
Every 2 weeks. We've done it since 2002 or 3, right? At one point, rolling up to 2019, we went from an average of literally year by year, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20 races a year. We were at an average of 20 races at the end of 2019. COVID hit. We didn't race primarily in 2020. Rebuilt it in 2021. This year, we are averaging 20 races again at every race, every second weekend. Please show me another club that does that.
Every second weekend is us.
That's right.
Yeah, you're first and third, or first and fourth.
Yeah, right. But no, I mean like literally 26 out of 52 weekends a year, the slot car, our club gets together, and we're averaging 20 people, right? We have an active base of around about 70 or 80 people, and in the database, as I said, 300-400 people plus what we have on Facebook. And I look at that customer pyramid, and what I'm literally doing, and from day one, my goal was, okay, what's it going to take the people who live around to become potential relevant customers? How do I convert that? How do I make that happen? I make it as easy as possible. Not
customers, club members.
Club members. My apologies. Yeah. Yes, I've never charged you guys any money that I took myself, really. So, to me, the goal was, how do I eliminate the barriers to participation? First,
and the first one was
own a car. Yeah. You don't have to own a car, right? We provide loaner cars. And then what we did after a few years, by the way, we said, hey, I think the current version is this. You pay $10 to participate in the day, and you get loaner car. And if you're with the club for the first 6 months, you pay nothing for the loaner cars. If after that you choose to use loaner cars, you pay an extra $5. So $10 or $15. Why? If you come to us 6 times, right, or 12 times in the first 6 months, 12 times 5 is $60. I could take that $60, I could save it in the next 6 months and buy myself a car. Or I can pay Stephen $5 each.
Which is going to become a loaner too. So,
well, or I buy my own car with that $60 instead of paying $5 to the various hosts, right? And I have my own car now. Oh, and the club helps me with 3 setup days a year to help make it work. And by the way, at the top of that, remember that 3-page setup form I talked about? At the very top of it, it says, give your car to a great racer. Record the times they set. Cry. Now, don't set up your car. Go practice 1,000 laps. It literally says something. Those are the words at the top. Because I can prepare a car, I'm pretty sure, very, very well. I can't do it as best as the best can. But by impressing upon every new member that it's not about the car, it's about the driving, you will pick up much, much more time learning to drive than you ever will getting a car to go better. That's particularly the case now.
Yes.
Because now the slot cars that come out from Slot.it, from NSR, from Sideways, from you name it, right? They are so good out of the box. Yes, there's people who can complain about them, but really, they are, I would guess on my track where a good lap time is 7 seconds, the cars we originally had in the club, from SCX, Scale Electrics, Ninko, Fly, etc., they were probably 9-10 second cars out of the box. That's if they'd even get around, depending on the tires they had. I take the same car now, and I can literally take the same 1960s Le Mans Slot.it and put it up against a 1960s Fly car with brand new tires on both of them. The Fly will be an 11-second car around my track, and the Slot.it will be an 8-second, 7-second car.
Out of the box.
Out of the box. So I look at the cars that are available now, and
without a magnet.
Without the magnet. We have no magnets in the FarrOut Slot Car Club. They live on the fridge. They are great. That is all they are good for. So why is this? Because the manufacturers who've come into the hobby, Maurizio in particular, have founded their business on day one from doing great racing cars that look like great slot car models. Scale Electrics and others are not in that business. They're in the toy business. They make great-looking toys that also now handle way better than they did in the 70s, 80s, 90s, 20s, and 2010s. But our club was built on the basis of, hey, can I get them into it first? And then can I give them enough classes? We have 7 classes in the club each year, plus what is essentially a loaner car class, the team races. Can I give them enough variation in those 7 classes for some of them to be getting towards the top of the pyramid, where they can make some modifications and changes? Originally, it was, you've got to make these modifications and changes, the car doesn't run well.
Yeah.
Now it's...
Well, because you have a much worse car.
Much worse cars, exactly. And now...
The DTM class from Slot.it, we basically race out of the box.
Yeah, the DTM
take
class.
The magnet and through the tires.
The Sideways class, the same thing. Too, yeah. 2 classes, unfortunately, we've had to change the tires on the Slot.it Group C class. No fault of Maurizio's. Overtime production variations meant that the tires that came with it were the same. But Sideways, DTM, The Revo slots.
Reverse slots out of the box too.
3 classes out of 7 are now essentially out of the box. We don't change anything on
And
them.
SR Formula 1 too.
And it's so 4 out of 7. The ones remaining being Ninko Classics,
Which
right?
is the original club class.
Yeah. And by the way, if you bought that car with an NC1 or an NC8 in it, all you do is take it out of the box and put it on the track and run.
Yeah.
Now, it can be run better if the tires are trued and all that sort of
had to
thing.
wait
But
for
it's
it.
the same thing, right? Yeah. Oh, sorry, we had to wait for it. Thank you very much. Fly. We changed the tires.
60s,
The Fly
right?
Classic 60, yeah. We
Che-
changed the
The
tires and we had weight.
Chevrons, the Lolas, the Porsches,
The
917s.
wonderful Ferraris
The
and
Ferraris.
that's right. All of those are really great, but we have to change the tires because the tires were bad out of the box, and we add weight because otherwise they aren't very handleable without a magnet. And then the last class we have is Fly, Ninko, NSR, Sideways. Oh, currently the Ninko GT1 class,
yeah.
an original class as well that was super easy. And that one, we started out with weight on it. And
I hate that class.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
Oh, God.
Why do you hate it? What is
I
it? What
never
is it?
could.
doesn't
I
it-
never could find a setup for that class. I gave up.
What?
I have one card, and when I have the time to go, and I try
Yeah.
to avoid it, but
May I-
God, they're racing that.
May I
thing
give
again.
you the secret to that class?
Yes.
Don't try to set it up.
Just run
Just
it.
true the tires and focus on your driving.
Oh God.
That class, it was that and the Ninko Classics and the Fly.
Because
was-
that's not only hard to set up, it's just a big mix up because it goes against everything. You need to change the motor. You need to put ornament tires and through them, and
Do you know why we have to change the motor?
because we run out of those Ninkos, guy.
Because Ninko practically went bankrupt and doesn't make the motors
Yeah.
anymore. So originally it was take car. You don't change the tires. That's original Ninko tires on those cars, by the way.
No, you need to.
Ninko GT1?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Originally it was take car out, remove magnet, put car back together again, race. It was great. Our first team race that we ever had was Ninko GT1s. At the end of 3 hours of racing, we had it was somewhere in the region of 1,365 laps for the winning team, 1,364 and a half laps
Very close.
for the number. It's like, and again, I prepared all the cars, blah blah blah, and they worked and they didn't break down and da da da. Yeah. Now, are they plastic wheels that will break after
But
time?
I think you're doing a good job, like changing those classes.
Definitely,
make
and
it more,
deliberately
make more modern.
doing it, right?
Yeah, we did it with the Formula Ones. We raced
Yeah.
the SCX, the Spanish Escalexes,
Yeah,
Formula One cars.
which, by the way, were cars that were
great.
made in the 1970s.
Yeah.
Okay, all of my loaner cars were made in the 1970s or 80s for that class. All of them.
Yeah,
Right?
those Williams and
Yeah,
those
and they were a
Tyros.
pain in the ass to set up, but they were great because they were a very consistent
There's that,
class.
that big 36Z or 26Z
yeah,
motor.
the big
Technotroys or whatever.
Technotoys. Yeah, but yeah, it's the whole spirit of the club is put a set of classes together where you, and again, people always criticize me. What do you mean you do minimal work? I have to do this and I have to do that. We just went through 4 of the 7 classes now are quite literally take out a box, get rid of magnet, true tires, and you're done.
The Formula One is literally that.
Yeah, quite literally. Now, if you want to do super great, true the tires down really low.
Yeah.
You know, rewire the wires to have a better flip back on the guide so it's always straight.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
they
okay,
regulate the front height, and that's it.
yeah, right. And but those cars now come with the ability to do that. You didn't used to be able to change the front axle. Like Ninko, you know how you want to make a Ninko GT1 work well? Go into the front axle, put 2 pieces of plastic under the front axle on the chassis so that it rises up and it doesn't go wobbly. There you are.
Something
You're done.
that anybody can do.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, to me, the whole club is set up to be a feeder to something like what we now have at Electric Dreams. Right, I couldn't feed into Buena Park Raceway.
It's
Couldn't
different,
yeah, it's not as it too far, but they raced completely different things in their.
It's a different kind of slot
It's a
car
different
racing.
concept. It's original raceway slot car environment, right? Which is great. I just didn't grow up to that. I grew up with model cars that were toys that you
but
played
it's not,
with in your
it's not that
backyard.
invitational. Like if you walk here, you have literally 5,000 cars
Right.
on display that you can literally pick it up and put on the
Go-
track.
yep.
If
And
you
have
go,
fun
if
with
you go to a place like Buena Park or Piranha, which is like they're high level racing.
Yeah.
But to put a car together and put it on the track, you're gonna need like a week, and you need to
Yeah.
have a lot of assistance. You
what's
can
one-
buy a car out of the display too, but they're
It's not
never
gonna
gonna
go well.
performance like the ones that are the professionals.
And I
do
think
that.
that goes back to why does FarrOut Slot Car Club exist and why has it been successful? I deliberately went the opposite way to the history that I perceived the raceways had. My perception, whether it's real or not, and Philippe and the great book that you guys have created can speak to it better than I can.
I have nothing to do with that.
Okay.
I took the picture on the back cover.
Aha. So you were 90% of the book's construction.
Yeah.
I love it.
So,
yeah. However the book came about, that and other books by Carlo Tomaselli, thank you. All of these books, I mean, I've known about the history, I've read about it, I've talked to people, but my perception was always the same. The original boom in slot cars and its bust came about because the fundamental business structure was wrong. Raceways were not going to make money for the people who were building them. But also because a kid like Michael Smalley, and I hope Michael doesn't mind me sharing this, Michael, when he was a kid, was poor. He didn't necessarily have shoes. He went to the raceway with his slot car thinking he was going to have a great time, and he got blown away because he'd got given a regular slot car and hadn't put $20 worth of hop-up parts onto it. So he could never be competitive. He couldn't do that, but he would have loved to have done it, right? And he loves preparing cars now, and he's been such a great positive to the club. But I did spend the first couple of years absolutely torturing him, because he was all about winning. And that wasn't what the club is about. The club isn't all about winning. It's about having fun racing these cars and absolutely celebrate people who win. I love the fact that Richard Rodriguez won at our club the other day for the first time. It was fantastic, right? And I haven't even posted the results yet. It's crazy. But the club isn't about winning at all costs. And I've had to politely excuse 4 people from the club permanently.
Okay.
Because they just didn't get that.
Can you give the names? No.
I can't give you the names, but none of them are alive.
Oh, God. Mysteriously.
They seem to just disappeared off the face of the earth. But the reason being,
That's why I saw you taking so much dirt out of your garage.
That is exactly why it's there.
Like
My concrete floor is not a concrete floor. It is a lift-up floor with very deep slots for human beings that didn't behave properly in the club.
Oh my God.
But I've been very strict about it.
I'm pretty sure that you are going to end up in a Netflix documentary.
Yes.
The crime ones.
I'll probably also be producing it at the same time.
Yeah. I'm creating the story for myself.
For the club, you've got to have, I think, to be a success, and again, okay, we average 20 people. Great. Again, I don't know of any other club in America who does that.
Like
literally.
That constantly, no.
No way, right?
No.
And at one point...
Not even the commercial raceway.
No, at one point we got up... I think actually in 2019 we got up to 22 average across 26 race states at different tracks, et cetera, et cetera. From day one, I had a very clear vision of what had to happen to have people have fun without too much effort. But then on the other side, I set up the setup days very distinctly so that people could explore. Then there's another part of the spirit of the club that's super important. If you win and you figure out something about setting up a car, particularly early on, and you figured out something about how to set up a car that made it better, if you did not share it, I would quite literally stop you from racing with us. Because if you didn't share that information, the other 20 guys or 10 or whatever it is were like, why should I bother? I don't like this class anymore. I don't know how to set it up. I don't like Ninko GT1. I don't know how to set it up.
Yeah, man,
I want to win. It's okay to want to win. I don't mind that at all. But if you don't have the same chance to win as somebody else, that's not good. That's why the loaner cars, or for us, you turn up at the club, loaner cars are available for every class and every race.
But that's one concern that people had. Like, there's a couple of people that I heard that doesn't want to race with FarrOut because they say, look, supposed to be out of the box, supposed to be plain simple, but then there's 1 or 2 guys doing things with latches and stuff that not supposed to do, and everybody knows it and everybody allows it. You know about it, right?
Yeah.
So
I know the perception.
Yeah, that's the perception. But running a track now, I see that those people, they're kind of trying to cry.
They're always going to cry.
Without even trying.
Yeah, they will always try to cry. And one of the reasons why the loaner cars are set up to, and I'm pretty sure you can take a...
That's Walter. Come on, Walter. Come on. Walter. Call Walter.
Go get him. He's one of the complainers. You should do it.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. But to me, you've got to have the loaner cars prepared to the same level as the best cars, because it eliminates the possibility of people genuinely having validity to that complaint, right? If the loaner car, if you can win with the loaner cars like Thomas does frequently, right, as have others, right? Chris Radis used to do it as well. Then it shows that the equipment is not the issue. And if you think one guy is preparing his car so much better that that's the reason he's winning, it's not true. Because I can take a loaner car and give it to a good driver and they're going to beat that best car, right? So it is not a case, and it's very hard to convince people of this, but I basically let the data do the talking. If people win with loaner cars, then that cannot be the case that we systematically have people who prepare their cars by cheating in a better way that allows them to win and nobody else to win. It's just not the case. I bet you I could take, in every single class, I am sure I can give the loaner car to a good driver, and they will beat the guy who is perceived to be preparing his cars in some super secret way. Plus, I talk to the people who prepare their cars in a super secret way, and I force them to share their secrets. And if they don't, 4 times it has happened, bye-bye. Right? It's part of that spirit, right? If you can't have a feeling that things are fair or that you get the same chance, then people, again, customer pyramid, at the base of the pyramid, I want to push them up to the loyalty. I want to push them out of the club and only want to come here and only want to do huge technical changes to their cars. That'd be great, because I know that that market is very, very small, and I'm going after the bigger market. Yeah, part of that slot cars are back building the hobby.
You're literally trying to push people from the bottom to the top, and maybe they go over it. That's fine.
Great. That's cool. I don't mind. I'm happy when people find Buena Park after a while and they go down there and they want to race. Look at Tim Herrera. Tim Herrera, I think, I may be wrong about this.
Do we really need to look at Tim Herrera?
We look at Tim Herrera often. Okay. It's a little bit like looking at like a smaller version of you.
No, I'm kidding. No, not as smaller. He's 5 inches higher.
Yeah, I know. Taller. It's all about height. We never talk about weight. So, I think Tim started with us and then ended up with Buena Park as well, and here, right? And that's great. Tim makes huge contributions to the club. Very quietly, doesn't talk about what he does, but he makes big contributions to the club, and he races here, and he races at Buena Park. That is 3 different types of slot car racing.
Always with fast cars. Always with fast cars. Fast cars.
Yeah. Great. And I've had him do loaner cars for us. Why? Because he prepares the car. Great. You know?
What was the reason that you kick out 4 people from the club?
Because 2 of them were so obsessed with winning that they could not behave normally when we're racing. So no, you do not know those people. Yeah.
Maybe I know.
No, you don't know any of the 4.
Okay.
2 of them were very early on, and they were so obsessed with winning. It wasn't that they would cheat. It was that their attitude in the club when they were with us was completely only about winning, and I can't possibly behave normally and just be a nice person to be around. So go away. I don't care. You know?
And the other 2?
The other 2, one actually cheated.
Really? What kind of cheating?
Things that I don't need to repeat.
Come on.
No.
It's like on the car?
Yeah, actually cheating with the car.
Like opening motors and stuff like that?
Repeatedly doing silly things.
Really?
Yeah. All kinds of silly things.
And the 4th one is the one that got shot, right?
No, the 4th one's just a dickhead, and I didn't like him. Literally, I didn't like the human being. The person was...
I think that one I was around.
Yes, quite possibly. It was within recent years, and the person was...
Was Greg from the training route.
It was not Greg, because that wasn't his name.
It was Greg from the train store.
In that case, the person just consistently led to other people coming to me and quietly saying, why is this person around the club?
Yeah.
And I don't like doing it, but I simply... The wonderful thing is that person actually came to me one race day and said, I think I've come to the conclusion that I don't want to be racing with you guys. No. Didn't say he wasn't a good fit. He says that I don't want to be racing with you guys. You guys have not made me feel welcome. And I'm going, that's interesting. I go, so you
that's
decided...
That's crazy, right? Because I remember that. And it's like 20 people. That guy was around and 20 people was just like,
Yeah. And it's interesting. The person's self-perception, I think, might have been... Self-awareness, I think is a better word. May have been not very good, because I don't think they were aware of the way that their behavior impacted other people's view of them. And when he came to me, he's saying, I just don't feel like I've been welcomed at the club. I don't feel like you guys really are being nice to me, so I've chosen not to race with the club. And I go, okay, that sounds like a good decision. And the shock on that person's face when I said, I think it's a good decision
thank
was
God.
like,
Thank God.
what do you mean? You don't
Thank
want to
God.
be around?
Thank God they want to quit.
You could see
it's
their
just
brain
it's just
doing
like you need
this.
to some employee let it go, some employee,
Yeah,
and just,
yeah.
oh, you want to quit?
Yeah.
Thank you.
It was. I mean, it really was one of those situations where, and I don't meet people very often that don't have good self-awareness.
Yeah.
You know, nearly everybody is fundamentally aware of their weaknesses. I know me. I know what I'm like. I can come across incredibly arrogantly to other people. It's because most of the times when I'm talking about those particular things, I've done them for years, and I know what I'm talking about is right.
You're a little proud about it too. Like you
Yeah.
put together a very nice club.
Yeah, you know?
It's a great environment. It's a
Yeah.
great environment. Like every time that I'm there, I'm having fun.
You know, one of the interesting things to me is how can
and
you?
the group of people is just so. There's nobody who is kind of need to do with this guy.
Yeah.
Like, I race in several raceways, and there's always one or two. Oh God, this guy came again. And at FarrOut, you go there on a Saturday morning. There's no problem at all. People are going to be nice with you. You're going to race nice cars. You're going to go to people's house. People are open their houses.
They're literally inviting you into their homes,
Yeah.
right? And what's interesting there is I really thank you for saying that, because I think that's a huge compliment, not to me. I think it's a huge compliment to all the members of the club, right? Many people have been with us for many, many years. Others have only been with us for a year or two, and yet they all seem to gel together. Do you know how hard it is to take 60, 80 different types of people, put them in a room together and say, hey, this is all going to be fine, right? Yes, we have blow-ups. Yes, we occasionally have issues.
With a competition environment.
Within a competitive environment, That's a great point. It's not just, hey, come to a party. It's...
But somehow, even if you're just playing and drink beers, and somehow you want to make more laps, you want to.
Yeah. And by the way, we're drinking at the same time. So there's an alcohol... People do not get drunk, but there is a little bit of the inhibitions... Okay, don't look at me. I'm looking at you.
No. I don't drink. I don't drink at all.
Right, you don't drink at all. Oh my God! Don't look at me. Really, seriously. No, but it's a good compliment, and it is, I think, to the people. It's not to me. What I've done is given them an environment where they can have fun without giving them tools to annoy each other. Right, and so I've taken away. So for example, let's say that we allowed, and people always ask me this, and we've got to get back to doing this. By the way, another spirit of the club thing. I think one of the things that has made the club super successful is that nearly every year we have had a club survey, and I force everybody who's active to make their survey. It's a survey monkey. And then what I do is I publish all the comments, every single one, without editing. It's all anonymous, and I publish the votes, and people can see everything. Now, if anybody bothers to read those things, I don't know. But when they do, sometimes I have people come up to me and go, why aren't people wanting to have a completely free class? This is crazy. And so I have a vote. Let's put it out there. What happens? 60 people vote, or 40 people vote. Usually we have an average about 40, 50 people vote.
So you're basically taking all this shit and say, hey, get around. Here's the shit.
And not only that, it's with neat little graphs, and it summarizes all up. And if you spend 5 minutes looking at the graphs, you're going to go like, and by the way, I present it back to people, right?
Yeah.
So I send out an email saying, here's what we found. Nobody is interested in nice cars. Nobody's interested in trucks, Thomas, at all, ever, Thomas. Right? There are 3 people out of 40 who want an unlimited class. There are 17 people who absolutely, under no circumstances, want an unlimited class. There are 20 people who want no changes whatsoever, right? And by the way, the class I love the most, the class that I am totally passionate about, the one where I have the most slot cars, is SCX four-wheel drive. The club voted it out of existence.
Thank God. Thank God, those are
horrible human beings.
Oh,
no, I'm kidding. They're so hard to set up. They're impossible, but there's so much fun to drive once you got them set up properly. But they take too many hours to do so.
Four tires to.
Oh yeah, when Maurizio came up with the slotted four-wheel drive system, I immediately made cars with that and tried to make it work. Unfortunately, it was too complicated. Too much time invested in it.
For the club,
right? Now, for other people, I'm sure they use it in Europe, whatever. But for me, I would love it if somebody would come up with a simple SCX-like gear-driven four-wheel drive system again, because they're just fun once you get them set up right.
I think SRC has a very good one.
Oh, really?
Have you ever tried those?
I've got them all on my shelf. I have not used them
Those
yet.
are very good. I put out of the box here on this wooden track. They drive very nicely.
Yeah. Are they the belt-driven ones or the...
Belt.
Yeah, so I specifically said gear.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
I'm sorry you're not listening to me. It's been so long. 4.5 hours in.
4.5 we have 2 hours more. I have a question here that somebody from the internet sent. Let me
Okay.
see. So this is Greg from the train store. He says... Let's just fucking with it.
I'm sorry. I'm literally going to look up what this guy's name is because I now need to know.
So Greg from the train store says, no.
By the way, Michael Smalley and I, sorry, Michael, to let this out, nearly bought Victory Station.
It was a nice store. I went there one time, I think.
He actually shared all of his...
there's no relation with Burbank House of Hobbies, right?
No. Oh, not that I know of. By the way, I just looked up Victory Station here. I don't have the guy's name in, but I will find it. But I have, like, the first thing I did, I typed in Victory Station. I have, like, 7 people. A gentleman called George Goulian. I don't know who he is. I won't give out his email address. But met at Victory Station December 12th, 2004. Right?
2004.
One of the people I picked up, well, I didn't pick up the person I got to know to try to get them into the Slot Car Club. Right?
Any advice for somebody who's trying to start a slot car club around the
I'm going
country?
to turn the question around.
Okay.
I've been approached by 4 people, I think it is, in the last 3-4 years. Not like every year, but just one here, one there. Of literally asking me, can they license my rules and approach for the club? And it actually made me think.
So now we're finally going to make money out of it?
No, I got no interest in making money out of slot
I can
cars.
sell my rules.
Yeah. No, but I've actually been thinking about, honestly, if the website was up, I could point to these 3 pages. This is how you do it, right? But again, I got to rebuild the website. But I think there's something there. I think that if it's not going to be perfect, because maybe what's happened with slot car clubs across the United States, and I do not mean to insult anybody here, but if you came from a raceway environment in the 60s and 70s, right, and you're going back into the slot car scene now, which a lot of the gentlemen that we race with are, right? They're much older than we are, not by significant amounts, but that's their background.
Yeah.
Then their background is slot cars that don't exist as commercial businesses now. A Slot.it, a Sideways, an NSR, even a Modern Scale Electrics, Fly, Carrera, etc., right, are completely different animals than what was successful at a raceway in the 60s and early 70s, and what is successful at the very few raceways that exist now. So maybe the clubs that exist around that idea, who came from that environment, aren't necessarily thinking of the same things the same way. Maybe they take a Carrera, which, by the way, is a perfectly raceable toy, if you want to, in a slot car club. We just haven't to have done it yet. Their immediate thinking seems to be, change all the thing, take everything out of it, put slotted parts in, do this, do that. I'm like going, so let me get this right. You paid $800 for this, $80, $60, whatever it is. And now you're going to go change everything in it to make it more like something that is a much better raceable car. I get that. How many people are actually on the planet who are going to do that with you?
Okay.
Who don't know the slot cars at all, or who knew the slot cars back in the day? Is it going to feel like, Michael Smalley again, is it going to feel like when I was a 12-year-old kid, I got my slot car, I took it down to the track, I haven't got any shoes on, quite literally, and I get blown away and I'm completely disappointed because I don't get to do anything fun. Yeah? So it goes back to the spirit of it, right? Could we potentially set up a series of clubs across the nation that try to mimic what we've done? People inviting you into their homes, they build their own tracks. You have anywhere from 5 to 10 tracks to race on.
But then when you're going to need to find a lot of Stevens around there.
There are a lot of Stevens around.
Well, you provide a lot for the club. You know about that. And there's not a lot of people who are not only going to open their house, have a track in their garage occupying 2 spaces, provide loaners of several classes. So you have
I only have 170 loaners.
170 loaners that you let people race, crash, and you have to maintain, to change parts and everything. Plus, you kind of give parts to people too. You have like a large stock of parts that you can find anywhere to keep the vintage classes going up. Like you have a bigger stock of Lincoln parts than we have here.
That's not my fault. You just didn't try.
No, I tried.
I'm kidding.
I got for you the last batch.
You did.
The
last batch of liberal things
yeah.
available anywhere in the
in
world.
Spain here. Stephen's gonna like this. So you're providing a lot. So you're gonna, besides that, and I believe that the spirit of the club, and I'm starting to understand and believe in you when you try to design the pyramid for me.
Right.
I agree with everything that you say. I have some issues, especially because about the experience.
Right.
I think the experience needs to be a little bit deeper to really hook those people up.
Yep.
And once you have them around the slot car track, I think we should do a little bit more to get them up. But it's a thing of adjustment only.
Yeah.
But we're gonna find more Stevens around. Even if you guys really willing to open the club, of course it doesn't need to have 170 loaners, but maybe it could be inspirational, and that's why you have here with this conversation to have look, those guys in California are doing this for 20 years. Of course, they started only one track, but this guy was gathering people around, offering easy-to-go classes. And now there's one extra thing. You don't need to convince the Greg from the train store to sell cars because it's much more easy to find cars.
Right.
They can go online and order.
Like you look at you guys, LEB, Cloverleaf, all of these places. Just
to ask guys.
Sorry, my apologies. just to Electric Dreams.
And if you go to Electric Dreams right now, you can have the car shipped next day. So it's easy.
Awesome.
So it's much easier to get cars right now, and it's not like I have to find out about REH that is bringing cars from Spain, and you have like 5 models only. You have a big variety.
It's a huge difference.
But you need to find the Stephen in Texas, the Stephen in Minnesota, whatever, to start to build those clubs.
Here's the thing. I think those people exist already, in part because I've spoken to some of them, right? It's not just the 4 guys who've asked me directly. There's a guy the other day who contacted me through Messenger on Facebook, and he started asking me about Ninko Classics. He goes, we're going to race Ninko Classics. I go, okay, great. I go, no problems. Here's what you need to think about, right? You're not going to be able to get replacement motors. So the first thing you want to do is get familiar with the Predator motor, the Predator 12,500, a motor, right? Any motor, doesn't matter. But something to think. Because you want to race these cars, and there are plenty of them still around, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
but it's still hard to find.
And
if you want a new one, it's very expensive.
It's very difficult.
3 times the price.
But here's the thing. Their club, as a starting point, they contacted me. And then we had a conversation. And that conversation, which was just literally chatting back and forth on Messenger, could have been text, whatever, right, led them down a path where they go, so we can't just go and buy the existing ones and race them against each other. And go, no, there's 5 different motors that we used. Straight away, there's a problem.
Yep.
They're not available.
Ninko, right?
Ninko,
they were sold the same class of cars.
NC2, NC5, NC1, NC8, and there was one other. I can't
Thruster,
remember.
whatever.
Yeah, Thruster, right? So which is the NC8. But anyway, they talked back and forth with me for maybe a day and a half, 2 days. Just little messages back and forth. They're still going to do it, but they're going to do it in a much more simplified, unified way. And guess what they're doing? They're having loaner cars.
So there's going to be only loaner cars.
There's only, I think, 12 of the guys. No. They're going to have 12. There's 12 guys, I think, in the club. Mm-hmm. They're all contributing $20, okay? And they're going to get 4 loaner cars. Okay. They have a 3-lane track, by the way. So they have 1 extra. So they're going to have the loaner cars available. And then they're each building their own car. Standardizing, right? Now, it's not the best class to start with. It's a wonderful class. I wish somebody would make those exact cars with modern componentry and release
working on it.
Well, that's a surprise, right?
Yeah,
but it's great.
But it's those are great cars, but again, full of stuff that you need to do. Look at Team Herrera right there at the window.
So it's a bad example of a class to choose.
Yes,
but it's an interesting thing that somebody
because they want to race those cars, and you can't find anywhere else. You can find those Porsches and those.
And the other 4 people over the last few years that wanted to do the same thing. Sorry, not the same thing. In my mind, it's the same thing. They wanted to learn why it was this club was successful. Now, how they found out about this club, I have no idea. I'm not out there promoting the club day in, day out. But they wanted to figure out what was going on here. So if there's 4 of those, then there are 40. And if there are 40, we can find 5 who can do what I did. Because I ain't that special, all right? What I am is focused.
Look, you work a lot to get to this point.
Yeah.
You're probably not seeing it, but not only approaching randomly people with strange people at the doors.
You just have a big stick.
At Poor's Greg store. But look, all the patience that you have with everybody, all the rule setting, all the class setting, everything that you've been done, you actually put hours on this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a passion behind it. So it's not somebody randomly like, okay.
But that's the passion you put into it. So there's 2 of us.
But your passion started when you were 8 years old.
Yeah, but I'm weird. So that's okay. There are other weirdos out there.
Yeah.
Okay? You have the same thing. You grew up at your dad's raceway, right?
Yeah.
Okay? So you have built in a whole bunch of information in your head that you can't possibly teach the rest of us. Okay? It's just there because you grew up in that environment, right? I didn't grow up in that environment. I needed somebody to play with. Mm-hmm. So I built something to play with people. You have a whole bunch of information in your head. I'm so thankful that you've come into the Electric Teams world and be able to make something much bigger out of it. Why? Customer pyramid. The idea that what we have built at FarrOut Slot Car Club, I think I don't need to license it. I just need to re-document it on the website and put a page up of, hey, you're thinking of a slot car building a slot car club? And then I put it onto Slot Racer Online and Slot Forum, Slot Car Illustrated, and I talk to you and I talk to whoever runs LEB and all these things and say, hey, if you got local clubs, we're willing to invest the time in giving you the 4-pager on here's how you make it. I've never, ever put time into building the club. I just made the rules and then things naturally happened, right? I think that if I could spend 10% of the time that I spend prepping loaner cars and making sure people play by the rules into building the club, I could easily have 40 people every second weekend, 26 times a year. I really think I can do that.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it because that's a lot of beer that I have to buy.
The day's too short.
It's a day too short. I have to race 1-minute races instead of 3 and 4 minute races.
Have to do qualifying on Saturday and race on Sunday.
Oh my God, like you guys have to do for the Nationals. Which, by the way, there's a great thing, right? Look at who turned up at the Nationals. You guys know the numbers. You had, 60 people roughly?
63 people registered and then show up. 64 registered and 53 racing.
Okay, so 53 racing. Those 53, how many came from out of state?
Out of state's 4 or 5.
Okay, how many came from somewhere else in this state?
10, I think.
Okay, so that's 15 out of 50. So that's 30% came from far away to be FarrOut Slot Cars, far away. 30% of the people who participated came from far away to do this, right?
Yeah, 25.
Okay, 25%. So of the 3/4 that were local, how many came from south of El Segundo? Probably not part of FarrOut Slot Cars.
5 or 6.
5 or 6, okay? So that's another 10%.
Yeah, maybe 10.
Okay, 10, so that's 20%. Okay, so now I've got 50% of the people came from not close to El Segundo or related to electric
Oh, more than that.
Okay.
More than that.
Okay, great. 60%. 60%, okay. The other 40%, maybe half came from FarrOut Slot Cars?
Yeah, we have like 8 or 9 people.
8 or 9 people, so roughly 15, 20%, right? Why am I taking you through all these numbers? Because you got a huge amount of people to turn up to a Nationals at a specific location on the west coast of the United States on pretty short notice, by the way. You didn't have a year to build this up, okay?
6 months.
Right? And a core of it, a small core, 10, 15% came from my club. Imagine if we had another 5 of my club.
Yeah.
Imagine if that existed.
Oh, I know. That's why we support you a lot.
Right? So what do we do to resurrect my website? Our website, sorry. It's not my website. It's our website. But what do we do to resurrect that? Spread the idea of what you can do to build a slot car club on a very simple basis, because it can be simple. That is the bottom of the customer pyramid that allows us to have places like Electric Teams be successful and other ones across the country.
Yeah.
Let's make this. Isn't there a gigantic one in Cincinnati or Ohio or somewhere, a big raceway? I can't. The Slot.it Budweiser orange striped car was part of the championships there in 2014. Don't you know anything about slot cars? Come on.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I know that LEB is run by Robert Bernhardt. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, right.
And
So
Robert was a Mesak member.
you know what? He mentioned that to me the other
and
day.
he was a very fast one. I heard people saying that he was one of the fastest guys over
I'll have to
there.
go back and look at my pictures of the trophies
Mesak.
and see if he's on
Yeah,
there.
the
right?
trophies that you that you
I mean,
wore
that's
the
another
Guardian.
cool thing, by the way.
That
right?
you were a Guardian for several years.
Was like
from Roger Moon.
Roger Moon was such a nice, gentle soul, and he entrusted me with looking after those for many years, which was great.
And now they're sitting at the museum.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Right. So there's so
I
many
wish I could
things
have
we
the
can do.
other stuff. Like there's a lot of Mesak stuff that
Yeah.
I'm gonna do a special episode on Mesak. I was trying to
really?
I was trying to interview Roger Ustalo.
Oh, yeah.
Is that the right pronunciation of his name?
I'm not sure, to
It's
be
two
honest.
U's. It's
Yeah.
Ustalo or something.
Yeah.
Roger.
Might be a
So
Finnish name.
he didn't want to participate. He didn't feel comfortable because
Really?
Yeah. So I might have Eddie because Eddie did a lot of studies on Mesak, and I remember that I did a lot of interviews with Roger Moon and Ustalo and other members.
And he may have interview material there we can use for it as well.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm not even part of this. But yes,
But
that you guys can use.
Mesak was, for me, is kind of, and because I worked with Roger on his last days, I was there organizing his whole collection.
right,
Roger was
yeah.
the one who literally closed Mesak doors,
the door.
which was another great club.
Yeah. I think you can't put FarrOut Slot Cars in the same sentence as Mesak. Mesak was something else.
Yeah, and
I mean-
Roger was the one who closed the door, so
Yeah.
he kept almost everything from Mesak.
Yeah.
And I was on the late days of Roger before I started working for Scott and Latch with him. So I went there and organized his whole collection.
Oh, very cool.
It's like a 70-something, almost 100-page spreadsheet of everything.
Yeah. No,
I literally counted nut and bolt by bolt.
Yeah.
He had this whole thing.
Oh, you did a tremendous effort on that. I mean, I was lucky enough that his daughter asked me to help out a little bit there after he passed away, and it's a bummer.
And
that
the
people
molds
pass away.
and trophies and the original
So
cars.
much cool stuff.
Cool stuff. And I learned a lot about Mesak because Roger, he wasn't there every day. I worked for like almost 7 days on that collection. But he came along like 2 or 3 days, and he just sit on my side and started telling stories about it.
That's interesting because Lee Stokely, remember going back to that? When he passed away, I consider myself a friend of Lee's, right? His son I offered to go to his garage and document everything that was there because his son didn't have as much knowledge as I did about it. And so much of it was European slot car collections and scale electric stuff and all that kind of stuff. So I literally went and spent days upon days in his garage just going, and I was lucky enough at the end of it, his son allowed me, I think it was like 6 cars or something like that.
Oh,
So
very nice.
6 SCX cars that I'd
Roger
never been
had
able to
a
find.
second house in Altadena or something.
Yes.
So he had like the back
area
of the
out
house.
back. Yeah,
It was
I
kind of
went
a
in there.
storage, and he was
Yeah.
trying to
Get it organized.
Yeah. But the whole slot car thing was in the back, so
I remember going there with all the shelves.
he
go
gave
through the
me
kitchen
he gave me
area.
2 plaques from Mesak.
Oh,
three
really?
3 original plaques from Mesak. First, second, third, and pole position on concourse.
Oh, very
It
cool.
was very cool, very nice print that I have in my box.
That was so cool having those trophies just in the house because they were in my garage the whole time, hidden behind a Liverpool, great Liverpool soccer fan. But a poster of Liverpool
You know that
stuff.
Scott took those. I took to the museum one day, and I called him over. It was like 7 p.m.
Okay.
He came down. He looked. Oh my God, where'd you get this? It was kind of a surprise.
Oh, that's cool.
And he had people kind of work on that. So it's everything polished,
Oh, fabulous.
It's everything fixed. And
Because all I did was keep them basically a little bit dust-free.
those trophies, I think they have like a dozen or even more at the actual museum. The other ones are boxed, but the cool ones, if you go to the museum, you can see it.
I got to go. I haven't been in the museum. Well, I will be going to the museum here at the end
next
of the
month
year.
we're going to have a race there.
Yeah, it's going to be cool.
Steven,
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
No
Thank you
problems at
very
all.
for your
My
time.
pleasure.
I know that your phone is just popping out there. It's happening. It's going to be a nightmare.
The worst thing is that the watch has been popping with it the
oh,
whole
the watch
time.
is going there.
So unbeknownst to you guys, my watch should go.
5 more minutes, somebody's going to come here. What's going on? What's happening?
Well, I've kept you way too late anyway. So this is the last time they're doing a 5-hour interview, I can tell you.
5 hours. It's not 5 hours.
No,
2 hours.
It's 2 hours. Thank you both.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
it. My pleasure.